That's 3 right there.
Mayor, Matt's going to be keeping time.
Okay. Do we have we don't have a timer ready, but you'll let us know. Okay. And it's 2 minutes for the presentation. And 2 minutes for each response.
Not everyone has to ask a question. So you guys can.
Let's go ahead and get started here. This could be a long meeting. We all kind of hope it won't be, but it may be if everybody takes all their time that they're allotted today. So we want to get started here briefly. We are going to start this meeting with a prayer, since typically we do that at a work session and a pledge at the regular session, but because this is only one meeting, our last one of the year, I've asked Paige if she'd offer the prayer, and then I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we even have a flag in here? Well, there it is.
We do.
Should have seen that earlier.
Our Father in heaven, we are so grateful to be gathered here this day in these chambers, in this new building. We recognize, Father, that we are abundantly blessed to live in this city, where the pioneering spirit and the spirit of camaraderie exist and thrive. We are grateful, Heavenly Father, for all the hands who have worked to bring us the blessing of these facilities, from the staff to the architects, to the contractor and all the workers who have sacrificed their time to do so. We ask at this time, Heavenly Father, that there may be a blessing on these chambers in this building, that their use might be for good, that there might be a pervasive spirit of civility, productivity, and the pioneering spirit for which Lehi is known. We ask for safety on all who meet here and all who serve our city. And we ask a special blessing, Heavenly Father, on those who will govern and make decisions in the coming years, that they may do so with thy guidance, that they might always seek out thy spirit and counsel. And now at this time, Heavenly Father, we ask that thy spirit be present in this meeting, in this building, and upon each one of us. And we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Paige. Okay. As a matter of roll call, we'll do it before the pledge, but as a matter of roll call, our council members are all seated here today for this meeting. It is December 22nd, 2025. The purpose for this special meeting is primarily to elect I'm going to do it after I just wanted to do the roll call thing. Sorry, I haven't forgot. Yeah, we will get to the pledge. I thought I mentioned that. So, but the purpose is to fill a vacancy in the city council seat, and that's going to take us a while. That being said, we are going to have a pledge right now. I'd ask everybody if they'll stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a couple items on the agenda. First of all, approval of the. Oh, I do have to make an announcement. Thank you. That one I needed a reminder on. Since this is a new building, a lot of you aren't acquainted to it. Probably, if there is an emergency, you're all welcome to use the stairs just outside this door to exit the building. It's probably the fastest way to get out. Of course, you can't use if it is an emergency, you're not going to be able to use the the elevator. So just keep in mind, those will take you right out the door. There'll be people who help you if that does happen. We certainly hope it won't and don't expect it to. Okay. We do have to approve the minutes from November 18th, 2025 and December 2nd, 2025. Council, are there any questions or comments on those meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for November 18th and December 2nd, 2025.
I have a meeting by Chris to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
And a second by Paul. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meetings pass, or those minutes passed. We do have an item listed for presentation reports, but I'm not aware of any. Do we have anything?
Yes, Mayor, if I can take just a minute.
Please.
Seeing as this is the last meeting for many of our elected officials, we just wanted to take a moment and present each of the departing mayor and council members representing or commemorating their time of service. So maybe I don't know, Mayor, if we want to go down there.
However you want to do it.
Yeah, let's
You're
do that.
presenting, so-
Let's do that.
Okay. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we have a series of interviews to take place. There were 17 that we're going to hear from. There were a couple that backed out. The procedure is we have a particular order in front of us. I will call you up to the podium here when it's your turn. You have 2 minutes to present why you believe it's important or why the citizens of Lehi City will benefit from you being asked to join the city council. After that, each council member will have an opportunity to ask you a question. They may or may not do that. That's their prerogative. You'll have another 2 minutes to respond to each one of those questions. You do not have to take the full 2 minutes. A yes or no answer sometimes is completely acceptable. That's your decision. So that being said, we're going to start those interviews right now. The first one is Jim Bratt. If you want to come up to the podium, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, esteemed City Council, including all of the folks that help the City Council make the decisions for this important city. My name is Jim Bratt. I'm a retired professional businessman and also a former radio and television advertising salesperson for many, many years in San Antonio. And we moved back up here to be closer to family. I have a great interest in what this city council does for Lehi City. I have 6 children and 14 grandchildren, and they live here amongst the Wasatch Front, and many right here in Lehi and attend schools. And I look forward to the opportunity to be a part of helping the infrastructure, thriving economy, and to have the safety that we need in our city to help the citizens. I look forward to the opportunity to be of service to each of you, whether or not I am elected to this post. And I want to say personally, thank you to all those who are leaving that you've done a great service to the city, and you're leaving a large set of shoes to fill. And hopefully the new administration will be able to do the best that they can to fulfill the legacy that you've left behind. And I thank you for that. And I'll take any questions that you might have.
We'll start.
So I think we're doing all of the intros first.
Oh, we're going to do all the intros first. Sorry.
Oh,
I was
okay.
unaware of that. I thought
No
we were
problem.
questions, so thank you for that correction. Next one is Larry Banks.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Larry Banks. I am a Vietnam veteran with a PhD in business administration and an MBA in technology management. I've owned my own small business as well as been general manager of JBL Speaker Manufacturing, where I managed a large budget as well as lots of employees. I've been provost of the Rocky Mountain University of Health Professions and Joyce University. That gave me the experience of dealing with state and federal regulations and in being in compliance with accreditation standards. I have the opportunity to speak on institutional effectiveness through the country. In the past 4 months, I've spoken in Florida, Louisiana, Arizona, and a couple weeks ago in Seattle, where people from BYU, UVU, Ensign, and other colleges and universities attended my presentation on orchestrating excellence. I've had the experience of working with the Taylorsville Economic Development Committee years ago. I've been a county delegate, a state delegate. I helped Amy Winter Newton in her quest to become governor. And I have had the privilege and honor of serving as a bishop and a member of a stake presidency in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I don't have an agenda. I really don't. I believe strongly in listening and learning from the residents and the stakeholders in Lehi to help govern the city and the growth and the expansion. My goal would be just that, to help you in a way that creates a sustainable, growth-oriented Lehi City aligned with the values of the residents that live here. It'd be my honor to serve with you.
Thank you. Doug Clark.
So my name is Doug Clark. I'm a Utah County native. I was born in Provo and raised in Orem. Married my wife Dee Dee, and we've owned homes in Orem and Linden. We had 4 kids. I then moved to Florida for about a decade before returning to live in Lehi in 2012, and we've been here ever since. We love it here, and we try to live in a way that makes Lehi a better place. Professionally, I've worked for several influential software companies, including WordPerfect and Novell in the 90s, Electronic Arts, and most recently, NICE, who's an international leader in cloud-based customer service software. I've dabbled in startups, including a spinoff from Novell called Metastorm, and my own company, ClarkWorks. I've worked in leadership roles in all of those companies, working as a director at the last 2, Electronic Arts and NICE. And I've been responsible for development, communication, and training initiatives that have had a global impact. In my last role, I led teams in North and South America, in Israel, and in India, driving performance and communication across diverse cultures. I retired from my corporate career in January of this year, giving me the time that would be necessary to serve on the city council. I'm here because I had questions about the tax subsidy given to the Morning Vista development. I read about it in the newspapers, thank heavens for the Lehi Free Press, but struggled to find the information about the decision that I was interested in, the justification for the subsidy, et cetera. I looked on the Lehi City website, on Facebook and Instagram accounts, and on the Lehi podcast. Eventually, I found what I was looking for, or some of what I was looking for, by watching the 7.5-hour meeting recording, which I commend all of you who were there. It was quite a meeting. But it was a challenge. And so I'm here to advocate for improved communication between the Lehi City Council and the residents. We need to take better advantage of our existing communication tools. We need to make our vision and decisions more accessible. My other priorities include accelerating Lehi's economic development and protecting our commercial zones, working with UDOT and neighboring cities to accelerate transportation improvements, funding our police department, building sidewalks, and protecting green space. I'm heartened to see such a large and diverse group of people here today who have as much interest in serving the city as I do. And I am, sad to see 50 years of the city council expertise, or 50 or more.
The signal you're listening to is.
Oh, yeah, it means I'm
That's
done.
2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I appreciate the service that you guys have done, and you will be missed.
Thank you. Robert Reeder.
Mr. Mayor, esteemed council. When I first read the appointment or the posting of the vacancy in the council, to be honest, I wasn't terribly interested initially. I thought about it multiple times over the course of several days and reread the posting several times. I reached what I considered to be a put up or shut up kind of a moment, where I felt like if I have something to offer, I should offer it, even if it's just paying my fee and presenting myself before the council and the selection committee to express my interest and my opportunity to serve the community that I've grown to love, I've grown to appreciate. I have worked in school districts now for about 15 years. I worked for Canyon School District, which is the first new school district in 100 years in the state of Utah. And this community is going to be deeply impacted by a similar process. And that knowledge and that experience, I feel would be a beneficial thing to this particular body, as there's a great deal of crossover between the constituency of the school district and the city. I'm well aware of the challenges that are presented with developing a new school district, and it isn't without impact to the community at large. I have grown to really appreciate good city governance. One of my most influential mentors in my life was a city administrator, and I gained great appreciation for his work and the work that others like him do. And I also, with great concern, watched after he retired and saw things dismantled. So it is important to me. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Savannah Johnston.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Savannah Eccles Johnston. I'm a sixth-generation Utahn. I'm a mother of 4 kids under the age of 8. I'm a wife of a small business owner here in Lehi, and I'm a professor of constitutional government, civics, and law at Utah Valley University. We live in Traverse Mountain right now, but we spent the first 5 years of our marriage living in Los Angeles. And I'm here today to do my part to prevent Lehi from becoming Los Angeles. Los Angeles is plagued by outrageous housing costs, by traffic congestion, by water shortages, and by a poor civic life. But I believe that there are solutions that can keep Lehi from going down a similar path. For example, the solution to traffic congestion is not to build more lanes and more parking. It's to decrease car use. Studies have proven that more lanes and more parking actually increases traffic congestion in the long term. So let's reduce car use. We can do this through multi-use zoning, through allowing businesses and schools and homes to be within walking distance of each other, to increasing public transportation, building it up, and allowing for safe and reliable biking lanes. Second, I want to prevent a multi-generational housing crisis in Lehi. And the way to do that is to address the supply issue. I want my kids to be able to afford to live here, which means we have to allow people to build here. That means single-family homes, yes, but it also means townhomes and apartment buildings. We need to end the stigma against density and say yes in my backyard. And third, I believe we can promote civic life and community, which is necessary in a republic, through increasing access to trails like the ones we have in Traverse Mountain, through parks, through a revitalized and walkable downtown, and through outdoor spaces and venues that can showcase Lehi's remarkable legacy in the arts. I believe that my expertise in government, as well as my willingness and ability to like people with whom I have mere policy disagreements, would make me a valuable member of the City Council. Thank you for your
Thank
consideration.
you. Vern Kiesler.
Afternoon, Mayor Johnson, members of the Lehi City Council. My name is Vern Kiesler. We appreciate your service to our community. I wanted to introduce myself by saying that I've lived here in Lehi for the past 20 years. My wife Jennifer and I have raised our 6 children, still raising 6 children here in Lehi. And I love this community. It's a great place to work, live, play, and raise a family. And that's what I think you guys have said. And that's what I'd like to see us continue. It's a wonderful place to raise a family here. Our home ownership rate here is about 77%. Our owner occupied units are around that same amount. We have 81% single family dwelling units. That's awesome. That's great. And we have a diversity of housing with townhomes and condominiums and apartment complexes that make up the other 20% of our housing stock. It's a healthy balance. And we should probably continue to look at that, hold developers responsible for the development agreements that they sign, and continue to promote a great community to raise a family. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I have 15 years in the public sector of local government experience, including currently, I work for Provo City as their traffic manager. I work with UDOT, MAG, Utah Transit Authority, and I work with their local school districts in what I do down in Provo. I wanted to share with you, the last 20 years prior to coming back to Provo City, I've worked in a private engineering firm doing transportation engineering all over the state of Utah and the Western United States. I'm excited about this opportunity to be considered, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Katie Coevisto. Katie here? I do not see her. Okay. Laurel Stevens.
I just want to start out by saying thank you to Mayor, council members, staff, and everything for your consideration and for this process. I applied because I feel like I want to make a difference in the way that our citizens are represented. We live in a community that I've lived here for 20 years, and we've raised our family, my wife and I, and we love this area, and we want to see it continue to be that kind of a place. We're grateful for the many opportunities that Lehi's provided, and I think as we go forward, we can use constitutional principles to protect the rights of all of our citizens. Currently, I'm an electrician. I am a business owner, and I'm in charge of running schedules, budgets, working with crews, managing disagreements between subs and owners, and working with the owners and working with those people around us that whenever there's a problem, I usually end up being the one that has to step in and be a part of that. So I appreciate that. Some of the service that I've done in the community is I've worked as a ride leader with the Lehi High School mountain bike team, which has been awesome and is a big part of why we have the trails up here. I've helped do fundraising for that group as well as fundraising for the arts. We do a lot of stuff through our business for Habitat for Humanity, where we help multiple homes every year be built at little to no cost. And I enjoy that kind of service. I also enjoy learning and studying constitutional principles. I enjoy learning about the founding of our country, and I enjoy which is kind of crazy, but I enjoy reading code and learning code from Utah State code to electrical code to whatever it is. And I appreciate you guys' consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Suafilo. Or Polo, which is much easier for me to say.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. You guys got a tough decision with 17 people. There's some amazing resumes up here so far that I've gone. I got to know many of you guys during my city council run, and I appreciate the support and the help that I got from many of you guys. Like you guys know, I'm running because I want my kids to see me serve. I want them to see me serve in more than just my family, but in the community as well. I'm a civil engineer by trade, working every day to protect our greatest asset, which is water. I sit there and I watch it, I manage the assets, currently managing a $100 million project. That's 3 years in completion and right on budget, actually under budget. I want to make sure that Lehi continues to grow in the right way with clear zoning, responsible budgets, and a strong investment in our roads and utilities and services. These are things that I believe very strongly in. I think I bring a different perspective to the city council. I grew up in Hawaii and South Carolina, served on a mission in Idaho, played football at Snow College, earned a degree at Utah State, and lived in Lehi for 6 years. I chose to build my life here because Lehi reflects my values of faith, service, and family. I serve in my church and volunteer in global water initiatives, and I never sit still when there's work to be done. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Josh Sorensen. Is Josh here? Okay. Let's move on to Derek Shumway.
Well, good afternoon, everyone here. Mayor Johnson, it was really good seeing you recently at the Just for Kids event with Michelle Holbrook. My sister Shauna is in that special needs group, and it's wonderful. Paige, thank you kindly for your service as well. My name is Derek Shumway, and I would love to be on Lehi City Council. I was born in China. I was adopted to Utah when I was 13 months old, so I've grown up here ever since there. I currently work at RCG Law Group in South Jordan. I'm their director of HR and IT. I've helped with onboarding there. I'm actually leaving at the end of this year, so I've been there the last 2 years, helped this law firm grow. I'm just looking for new opportunities, and I saw this and thought it'd be a great fit there. My last job, I worked in the United States Senate. I worked directly for our Senators Mitt Romney and Mike Lee, both at the same time, representing them in immigration casework there. Really unique because, one senator really loves Donald Trump, the other not so much, but I was able to balance that very respectfully and kindly. Not an easy job, but I did it very well, and I was very grateful for the experience working with our senators. I've done immigration consulting on the side, been an ESL teacher, have a teacher's heart there. Having that federal background, I moved right into state legislature stuff. I volunteer with Americans for Prosperity, get ties with the state legislature there, and I would love to cap it off with city council experience. I'm 29 years old. I'm young, I've got the time, I've got the energy, and I think this is just really an exciting opportunity to know that this is how things work. That's how I got involved in the state legislature, to learn how they work. It's how I got a job starting off with the senators, to learn how the federal government works. I really don't know much about how the city council works or how the city operates, but I want to learn that. I'm willing to learn, and I have the energy for it. So thank you kindly for your time today.
Thank you. Next is Jess Green.
Mayor, council members, thank you for having me today. I see recognize a few familiar faces. And my wife and I actually just live on the house just up the street that just recently recognized the Smith Mansion. So my name is Jess Green. I'm married. I've got 4 kids, 2 younger kids. I'm currently a licensed Utah real estate agent and do some consulting and contract for a company called Par Alloy. We sell materials to power generation, power plants, help keep the lights on, which we all tend to enjoy. So it's been interesting and fun. So a little bit about me, Utah County resident for 43 years. What do we call progressiveness? If this is what we call it, I'm not sure I'm really on board with it. I've got a couple of issues with maybe the way the city's going. Some of them would be, safety, public safety, financial clarity, overall city communication. I know some of the numbers on the recent elections. I mean, we had less than, 10% turnout for the mayoral votes. We've got 90,000 residents now. We're quite a big place. I think that the communication seems to be off just a little bit. So I myself have a few concerns. Maybe unlike some of the rest of these people, I have no idea how any of this works. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure I want to know, but I do have 2 kids, and therefore I feel it's my duty to actually be here, to stand in front of you, to actually maybe learn how these things work and place my voice to input on, maybe some of these old values that I believe that should make our small town, that might not be such a small town, but there's no reason why we should abandon those. I notice these beautiful murals and paintings here. I don't think that we're moving in that direction. Not as much as I'd like to go back. I'm not sure how much we can, but I think that there just needs to be a voice for upholding those small town values, and I'd like to be that person. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Lockhart.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us all today. About 10-15 years ago, the leaders in this room worked with UDOT and our state leaders to put in the frontage roads for 2100 North. At the same time, they were planning the Mountain View corridor. Also at the same time, the leaders in this room were planning a development called Holbrook Farms. Now, what do these have to do with me and my perspective here today? 5 years ago, I got a divorce and brought my 2 toddlers to Lehi. And I was able to afford something here in Lehi because of the thoughtful planning of the leaders in this room. When you designed Holbrook Farms, you put unique and different product types that allowed me to purchase something and raise my kids here. With the thoughtful planning of 2100 North, I was able to travel along that road every single day for 2 years to go to BYU, where I received my MBA. From that point, I was able to get a job at a local steel company right off of Mountain View corridor, where as of last week, there is now a seamless path that I can get to work to and from every day. My service on the Planning Commission over the last 4 years has given me the understanding of land use development and the way that the city works. But my personal experience is why I believe I'm ready to be your peer. I understand that every application that comes before this body is more than just land use. It's more than economic development. It's more than roads and freeways and compromises. It's opportunity for the residents of Lehi. An opportunity that I will be forever grateful you have given me, and I will be sure to make sure that every resident of Lehi has access to. With a little hard work and opportunity, really amazing things can happen, like a single mom who can rebuild her life, provide for her kids, and give back to her community. And I want to just be clear, no matter your decision today, I'm committed to Lehi and serving it in whatever capacity you choose. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared Peterson.
Hello. You all know me, you know my background, you know my history, my service to the community. Over the past several months, I've spent a great deal of time meeting residents, listening to their concerns, learning firsthand what people love about our community, what their frustrations are, what they worry about. I heard consistently about traffic, infrastructure, fiscal responsibility, and the importance of preserving the character of our community while planning wisely for the future. What I bring to the council is a steady, practical approach. I understand how decisions are made, how budgets work, and how important it is to balance long-term planning with immediate needs. I believe good governance starts with listening, asking hard questions, and making thoughtful, well-reasoned decisions, not rushing, not posturing, and never losing sight of the people those decisions affect. My past service within the city, combined with my professional background and life experience, has prepared me to step into this role and contribute immediately. I believe that experience makes me well qualified to complete the remainder of this term. I'm not coming into this role with an agenda. I'm coming in with a commitment to show up prepared, to listen respectfully to all sides, and to work collaboratively with fellow council members, city staff, and residents. I value transparency, fiscal discipline, and solutions that are realistic and achievable. This vacancy matters because continuity matters. With just 2 years remaining in this term, the learning curve is short, and I am ready and prepared to go to work from day one to help keep the city moving forward without missing a beat. May I also say, since it sounds like I have some time, thank you to those who are outgoing, and to Mayor Johnson, to all of you. I've had opportunities to work with you, to sit with you, visit with you. The amount of selfless service given is absolutely commendable and should never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Derek Phillips.
All right, Mayor, council members, thanks for allowing me to come up here and say what I've got to say. Name's Derek Phillips, born and raised in Lehi. Been here 42 years with the exception of a couple of years I lived in American Fork. Love this town, love everything about it. Some concerns and things that, I've got interest in are public safety and just traffic and infrastructure. There's things I see both ways that we can solve the issues that we currently have. Married, 5 kids ranging from 4 to 19. I would consider myself heavily invested in Lehi as a whole and what takes place over the next 20, 30, 40 years, however many years I've got here. Professionally, I own and operate a global sales company based out of Denver, Colorado. There's a lot involved in that I think could help things that go along in the city. So that's all I've got. I appreciate you guys this time.
Thank you. Montanay Hamilton.
Thank you. Many of you know me from a couple runs for council. I've thought it is important since I've owned a home to always be involved in my government, all the way down to the HOA level, as fun as that is. But through a couple of those runs, Mayor Johnson suggested I become part of the Lehi Sustainability Committee, and in the 3+ years that I've spent in that role now as chair, we've transformed that committee from being more of kind of an outreach committee to starting to push for some policy. I'm looking forward to some productive conversations that I've had with Paul Benz on that. With development code and ordinances being one of the things that we can affect, with Paul, what we've talked about is what we can do to quickly change how we use water, right? From a city level, from a commercial level, and from a residential level. There are things that we can do to change the code now to reduce water for at least all the new developments while considering what we can do to people that have already invested in that. That said, zoning is our most powerful tool to get the Lehi that we want for the future, right? And to that end, I want Lehi to be a leader in smart development that connects more residents to mass transit, reduces pedestrian and motor vehicle fatalities, is consistent with what MAG and WFR see and envision for the region at large. We've got to fit into that. It needs to provide both residential density and job density so we can reduce those trips like Savannah is talking about and not be LA. So there's a lot of new things. We're at a crossroads. What has worked for us in the past is not going to work for us in the future. And I think it's time for some new ideas to really make Lehi what it can be for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyson Hodges.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's kind of nice coming up last. Came up last in the general election ballot, coming up last here, so kind of getting used to that a little bit. But anyway, I'm Tyson Hodges. My professional background has been in construction, primarily plumbing and HVAC. The last 18 years of my life has been with Intermountain Health. I'm currently the facility manager for the 3 smaller hospitals here in North Utah County. I'm not over the Lehi Primary Children's Hospital, even though it's a beautiful building. I do everything else in North Utah County. So I've got employees, I've got a massive budget, I've got forecasting and planning to do with them. And I got to keep our healthcare system up and running so everybody in this room can come to our buildings. Beyond that, the reason why I want to run for council is I think my expertise and background can make a difference for Lehi. Be able to collaborate with everybody involved. And then I've got a wife, 4 kids that I want to see grow up. My daughter's just started high school this year at Lehi High. I've got elementary and junior high kids as well. So got a gambit from top to bottom. My wife was an educator for 20 years, put service in with that, teaching elementary school here in Lehi. From River Rock to Fox Hollow. She just retired in May. But beyond that, if I can leave you with one last thing, don't worry about the past because you can't fix it. Don't worry about the future because no one can predict it. And don't worry about the present because I'm sorry I didn't get you one. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now is the time to come up and the council will ask questions. Jim Brad, if you would like to step up here again. And I think we'll go through start the questions with a rotation order, if you will. And so we'll start with Michelle for the first question. As a reminder, 2 minutes is a maximum. You don't have to take it, but we'd appreciate if you hear the chime go off that,
Time's up.
cut it off at that point.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for replying. Appreciate all of you coming out here. So read through the resumes and the letters. You mentioned that you want to work to continue the great work of the previous administration. Can you expound on that and share with us some of the policies you think are important to continue for the new council to continue?
Can you speak up a little louder? I
Is this
couldn't hear
on?
you.
Screen. Okay.
There.
Just eat the mic. All right. So you mentioned in your letter to the council that you will continue the work, the great work of the previous administration. So what policies do you think are important for a new council to continue based on the?
For instance, at the last council meeting, they talked about the master plan for downtown Lehi and State Street. And I appreciated very much the back and forth. And Michelle, even though you disagreed with the preliminary finding, or that you wanted to table the plan until the new administration came in, I thought that the way that the other council members gave their points of view were practical, spot on, very common sense, and made a lot of sense to me as to why that master plan should have been approved, and it was. And I appreciate the way that you spoke up, and I hope that I have the courage to do the same in the next administration, to speak up when I feel like things are not the way that I think they should be, but listen to the other voices on the committee, on the council, to strive to do those things that will make them the best future for Lehi City.
Thanks, as Michelle said, thank you for applying. Thank you for being here today. Is that good?
I can hear you, but I don't think your microphone's on.
I'm very impressed with your experience.
Thank you.
The diversity of your experience as well as the vastness of it. I guess the one question that came to my mind as I was listening to you is, how would you suggest, or what things do you think Lehigh City could do better to market itself?
That's a great question. I do have a PR background. I was the regional public relations director for the church in South Texas. And I was able to meet with the media and the newspapers to talk with them about the things that we needed in the region, and as a church to represent the members of the church there in South Texas. And I know that you advertise in the local newspapers, you do whatever you can to make sure that the publication of events get out, but I would be glad to help and give my voice in any way that I could to help public relations for the city. I think the mayor had a great public relation opportunity at the last council meeting with Payson's mayor, and did a great job of correlating that public relations with the things that needed to be done. And I appreciated that.
Right, your background involves a lot of persuasion and advocacy. So how should a council member ensure that public communication informs rather than persuades when legal limits are constrained?
It's a great question, Heather. I hope to be able to fully understand exactly all the nuances and the things that need to be done to make our city council work together with the others in the city and in the public and in the state government as well as federal government. We have a lot of different views, and we need to voice our opinion, just like Mayor Johnson did in getting the funding. What was it, over $5 million for the city downtown, and that was great. And I think utilizing the laws and legal ways that we can to help get those things done is a way that we progress. And I'm a common sense kind of guy. I don't want to do anything that makes unreasonable requests, but I do want to hear and listen to those voices of different viewpoints.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
I'm not going to ask a question. I'll turn it over to Paul.
So I'm going to ask a question kind of in a similar vein to Heather. She talked more about informing and persuading the public. Mine is more around informing and persuading your fellow council members, as you only have one vote on the council. So, you know, in your professional career, you may have been able to make decisions unilaterally. As a council member, you have to get two other people. So talk to me about kind of what your approach would be in working with other council members that may come in with different views and how you might approach that.
Very good question. I've served on 4 stake high councils, and I had differing viewpoints a lot of times, and had to be able to convince them of what would be my choice in a situation. Sometimes I disagreed, but most of the time I spoke my piece and gave the council my input that would help them and guide them as well. And I've also been on the San Antonio Community of Churches Executive Board as the treasurer, and we had to have differences of opinion talked about from different religious perspectives too. And I know that not everyone that lives in Lehi is a member of the church, and I will be able to listen to that and hear the voices as they come forward to the council for their different input. And I look forward to the opportunity to serve it any way I can and help the different types of voices. But on the council, I think what you did in the council meeting last Tuesday was a great example. And I wish I could have worked with all of you during the future on the council. But I take your example to heart. You spoke your mind. You did it in a calm manner, and in a demeanor that wasn't putting down anyone. And I think that's the way to, gain alliance and help everyone to work together as a council. Thank you. Paige?
Hello, Mr. Pratt. Huge respect for your abilities as a communicator. Obviously, your resume speaks for itself on that, so I'm going to change direction just a little bit. What would you say is your familiarity with the city budget? What's your general budgeting philosophy, and what would you change if you could about our current budget?
Again, common sense. Use the resources that you have, plan ahead, make sure that you have enough resources that you don't go too much in debt. I know we have bonds and we have to pay those off. And we've done a good job as a city council, I think, in paying those bonds off on a timely manner. And when it comes to budgets, I've had practical experience as a stake auditor for the stake that I worked in. I had to go over budgets and all the audit financials of each of the wards in my stake and make sure that everything was accounted for correctly and used properly.
Thank you.
I'm not going to ask a question. I think you've done an excellent job.
Thank you very much. Just as a side note, personally, married for 44 years to my high school sweetheart from Pleasant Grove High School. I won't hold that against you, and I hope you don't hold it against me that we were former Vikings. But my father-in-law taught at Lehi High School.
What was his name? Now I'm
Neil-
going to ask you a question.
Neil Christensen.
Oh, okay.
And he became the principal of Pleasant Grove High School.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
thank you very much for your time. I look forward to being of service. And I feel like this is a fulfillment of a call and the whispering of the Spirit to come here and be a part of this council. And I hope that I can, in the future, serve in that capacity. I look forward to your votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Banks. We'll start the questioning with you, Chris.
Larry, thank you too for
Thank you.
applying and for being here. As you spoke and as I read through your resume and things, again, very impressive.
Thank you.
As an educator and as one that served in the role of a general manager, one who's in that leadership role and looking for advice and consent, but making the decision on your own, right, in a lot of ways.
Well,
In a city council format where we're a 6-member council, and you have, similar to the questions, I guess, asked to previous, how do you see yourself counseling with 4 others to try to persuade or to come to a decision that you think is best for the city as a whole?
Well, there's a lot to that question, Chris, but a council is a council. We share ideas, we collaborate, we bring our points of view, and they'll be diverse, and that's okay, But when we come to a decision about how to allocate resources or a strategic plan issue, you support the council.
In a volunteer capacity, have there been any instances where you've had those opportunities in Lehi, or what would you be interested in doing should you not be appointed to council?
I would just like, I love Lehi. Lived here 15 years. I've lived in other places too, but I think the infrastructure has a lot of pressure right now. And so anything I can do to help problem solve, implement systems, I would be interested in helping, no matter which way it goes. And I happen to be very good at, and I don't know why, it's just a talent that I have, but identifying a problem, reviewing the data, and isolating it to the vital few things that really will make a difference. Sometimes we solve problems and there's lots of things. The truth is there's just a few things few levers that you pull that will make a big difference in a system, in a process. And so I have the ability to break it down, make it simple and understandable. So any where I could help, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paige.
Michelle.
Okay, I'm going to kind of copy Paul, but go into a little more detail. So based on your experience on the Economic Development Committee, in your opinion, what's the best way the council can promote economic development? And especially in regards to things like tax increment financing, our regulatory process, or the city's purchase of property?
Well, I think the most important thing to do is to go out and meet with business owners, educators, government officials, and develop a relationship. Talk to them. What are their needs? And do your best to develop a good, solid relationship, even though you might not agree, still knowing individuals, you can garner the support to develop the economy, to develop the necessary resources to achieve your strategic plan, whatever that might be. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks again for the opportunity to be here. I'm a little nervous. I'd much rather be playing my guitar, Paul.
Okay, thank you. Doug Clark. We will start the questioning with Heather.
Hi, Doug.
Hey, Heather.
Thank you for being here. You emphasize that understanding matters even when people disagree. So how should Lehi City Council explain difficult decisions so residents feel informed without overpromising outcomes the city cannot deliver?
I think the thing that I'm personally missing is justification. And so the thing that I would like to get better information about out to the residents is why decisions were made. So, I've been to city council meetings, I've watched city council meetings, and I see the votes, but I don't hear as much information about why the members of the council are deciding the way they are. You can infer some things, but I think it would be valuable to the community to be able to understand why certain people are voting a certain way, what their feelings are about this particular strategy versus that one, growth versus not growing, or, incentives versus not incentives. Again, the things you're dealing with are clear because they're documented, but the whys are just not there. At least they're not as transparent as I would like them to be. And so it would be helpful to me as a resident to be able to understand, okay, this is why Heather did that, and this is why Chris chose that instead. And does that help?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So you referenced specifically the Morning Vista tax development, and that initially you couldn't find some information. You said you ultimately did and had some information there. Be interested to get your take on what your opinion is on that. Obviously, it's already in process, but it would help inform me on kind of how you view those things.
Yeah. So bringing large, valuable, companies to Lehi is a great benefit to all of us, right? Something that the community is interested in. It's not surprising that you have to give something to be able to get something. My concern initially with that, with the information I had, was that it wasn't clear what Lehi was getting for the $8 million of, tax, that they were giving back. Reading, listening to the recording, and even going through the documentation, I'm satisfied with the idea of giving that money to the developers to have that kind of development come in. I am not satisfied with the actual agreement and the justification in the documentation, the area plan, because it was really just a whole bunch of stuff that, we're going to be spending this much money, there's, exponential growth in building costs, which isn't actually true. There's lots of potential benefits to Lehi City, but none of them are, concrete and something we're for sure going to be able to have. I would have preferred the document to have nailed down the developer to provide, X number of value for the $8 million we gave them. But as far as the general philosophy, definitely, I want things like Whole Foods to be able to, businesses like Whole Foods to be able to come to Lehi.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark, obviously whoever sits in this seat is not going to have a whole lot of time to prepare. And a big part of the job is zoning decisions, land use decisions. How conversant would you say you are on Lehi's zoning and code, and how do you intend to get up to speed if you're not?
You know, I don't have an extensive knowledge, right? I've done a little bit. The one issue that I've come to the council twice about with my neighbors is the Beehive home on 2375 West. We initially came to the council to talk about concerns about the size of development. The owners were going to build a second 16 bed facility on that size of property. There was not the parking available for that, given I can't give you the exact zoning number, but and so we presented our concerns to the city council. They voted to go with the owner's proposal. That was never built, and subsequently codes were changed restricting the size, which were some of the things that we had presented that other cities had different zoning in those kind of areas. And so I was happy to see that was changed, and eventually was involved when the last owner was trying to redo the 16 bed facility. So I will say I've been in the documents, right? I understand the work I need to do to get around. I understand generally where I need to go to find out information about a specific thing, but definitely I've got a learning curve to get up to speed to, every issue will likely be something I'm going to have to do some homework on.
Thank you.
Okay, in your letter, you expressed concern about our weaker than possible tax base. So if you're appointed, what would you do to grow our tax base?
So I think it's important. I'm not familiar with what our economic development group is doing in the city. I need to be more familiar with that. I think we need to be working with the landowners, right? The people who have the commercial property, to understand what it is that they're looking for, what their timeframes are, what the problems are that they're having in, whether it be attracting the right kind of tenants or, those sort of things. And I think we need to be actively involved in making sure the coordination is happening to bring us the commercial entities that will grow our tax base. And so personally, I think that is where I'd like us to focus, as opposed to increasing taxes on the residents. If we can grow our commercial base, then there'll be less need to rely on the citizens for additional things. And I definitely think there's opportunity for collaboration. PR was talked about before. I think the right people to be talking to are the people who are the companies that are interested in building in Lehi. And if there's anything we can do to get those folks aligned with people who currently own our, the land that they can build on, then I think that would be valuable.
Thank you. I'm going to try to sneak two questions into one, if that's okay.
If it fits in 2 minutes of an answer, I'm good.
One of the things I'll suggest, one of the things that I struggled with in my terms is on the city council. One of the things I learned is that you have what's called either closed sessions or you're asked to participate into a non-disclosure agreement. So I find it fascinating that kind of the theme amongst a lot of the candidates, right, is transparency, which I think is great. But with that, if you are in a closed session where you can't say anything outside of that session until it's ready to be made public, or you're in a non-disclosure agreement, how would you suggest, how do you help educate the residents, or to give some of those specifics that you really can't get at the point like you were looking for, right? I can see almost visually in my head as you're looking for information that there's some things you're not going to find because of a non-disclosure agreement or other methods, right? So there's that limitation where specifics that you as a resident want to know, but you can't share those. So how do you approach that? And then secondly, I know that in the campaign season and in my years of service, is there a way to provide some of the same type of incentives that we tend to give large businesses to our small, medium-sized local businesses in your mind here in Lehi?
So as an executive at a large company, there are many times that we had information about things that were happening, deals that were being done, changes that were being made, that the general, employees weren't available or weren't aware of, or at least didn't know what was going on with the decision making. And so I think what is critical is that if people are aware of what's going on, what's being discussed, then you have to be transparent in being able to say, yes, we're discussing this, right? Share what you can when you think it's appropriate. I think it's important to be able to agree as a council as to what you're going to communicate, right? As you go along, maybe there are things that you're concerned about getting out early. Maybe there's things that would be helpful to get out early. But I think it's important that the council is in agreement, and so you don't have people trying to, unduly influence each other by trying to, leverage the public. But I do also think it's important that eventually information that is educational to the community gets out there, and, definitely feel like it is worthwhile that there be some effort being made to, collaboratively as a council, be able to put forth, the information, the decisions that were made with as much background as can be shared, so that we as citizens really understand what it is you as a council are doing, not just what you've done, but why. I'm not sure that helps. The second question was economic development for smaller developers. In that March 18th meeting, I think there was another business owner or commercial landowner from Holbrook Farms that had come with a concern about he had lost a grocery store or something, and he was having trouble finding, the right sized businesses to fit in the land that he had. So questions that I had, having, processed that meeting are, we're giving $8 million to a large developer, and it wasn't really clear to me, still isn't completely clear to me why, other than we want that. What other options are available to that landowner, right? He may not be as big, but we want tax revenue from his land as soon as we can, within reason. And so I definitely think we need to be prepared to have a package of support for our landowners so that they can be able to more effectively find and bring in. So some of that might be advertising. Some of that might be sharing with that landowner, businesses who have expressed interest in Lehi, and trying to collaborate with the landowners and the city so that we're not individual islands, but we're kind of working together on that. If that makes sense.
Doug, thank you very much. Robert Reeder. And Paul will start the questioning.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for being here and throwing your hat in the ring. You said the put up or shut up. So this is your moment to shine.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate your perspective that you bring from the Canadian School District. Obviously, we're our own governing body, our own taxing entity. But I guess I'm going to steal Chris's. I'm going to sneak two questions in.
Okay.
One is, how do you think the city council can collaborate best, especially with a newly formed school district? How do you envision that? And then two, maybe you could talk a little bit about your budgeting philosophy just in general for Lehi, having served in the school district. I don't know what kind of budgeting roles you may have had there, but would love to hear your insight on that.
Okay. So in terms of the impact to the community, and I think really what we're talking about is the impact of a new school district to the community and how the community can support the new school district. There is a lot of crossover in that you support the similar constituencies. Obviously, there's a lot that's not the same, but there isn't a lot that is crossover. One of the things that I think you will find as we get closer and closer to the full implementation is the temperature of the entire community will raise a little bit, as there's anxiety and anticipation, and to a certain extent, probably a little bit of frustration as the infrastructure is going to be built as it goes. Probably the best way for the community, for Lehi City in particular, to support the school district is to do everything in your power to bring that temperature down and to help to establish some continuity and some structure and really strengthen the ties to the school district as they really are trying to do some heavy lifting with creating infrastructure where it doesn't currently exist. There was no real example to go on when Canyons was built, where this new school district will have an advantage where others have gone before. We've already started meeting with many of the decision makers involved with Alpine School District as well as the new school district to try and help provide some guidance as that process happens. But one of the most important things is to probably just bring the temperature down and do your best to provide stability to the community and reassurance to the community that Lehi City is there to support and to advocate for the citizens and the students within the community. In terms of budgeting, my budgeting perspective is it's a lot about transferable skills. There are a lot of similarities in the school district as a city government, and budgeting is one of those similarities. Everybody is trying to split that very delicate pie as many ways as possible, and understanding that giving to one endeavor often means taking away from another. And so trying to establish priorities and trying to mitigate the frustrations and the implications that come with advocating for one thing over another is always a challenge. And that's probably the biggest thing that I feel is that we need to strike a balance between the different priorities and understanding that unfortunately, when budgets are finite and the funding is finite, there are occasionally winners and losers where a priority takes precedence over other things. And those are hard decisions to make. And that's, in my opinion, one of the most crucial decisions that need to be made on a governing body like the city council or a school board.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Reader, obviously your experience in that particular field would be enormously valuable. I'm sure you've watched as we've struggled to navigate the line between municipal government and school district, trying to make those work together. But I'd like to switch directions a little bit because I found it very informative to learn Mr. Clark's experience with land use in his own neighborhood. Have you had any personal experiences in terms of what goes into your community, how you communicate with your leaders, and what your opinions were on the decisions made?
By and large, I support most of the decisions I've seen in terms of the growth in the community. It has been challenging, to say the least, to the community over the last 20 years to see such unprecedented growth in the community. It has brought infrastructure challenges in terms of roads, schools, power needs, all the way across the board. Likewise, I've seen struggles in those who want to keep everything very small, as well as those who want to see things grow very rapidly. I think Lehi City has done a very good job at striking a balance between those two somewhat conflicting interests. I think it's important for us to always respect and reverence the past and where we've come, but at the same time, we are experiencing challenges as we see an ever increasing need to build and support the infrastructure. In terms of my personal experience, I've seen a considerable amount of growth in my area in North Lehi. Some of the things I've seen have been wonderful, and I welcome and I support, and some things that I've seen, I'm scratching my head going, what was the thinking behind this? One of them being the interchange there on 2100. But by and large, I understand the challenges and I support what's been done. And I look forward to the opportunity to having at least a little bit of input in the future as to how things progress, and continue to try and strike that balance. I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face as a community, is trying to balance that growth while at the same time reverencing the past and strengthening the current status of the economy and the growth.
Thank you.
Paul, I think you literally took my question. Thank you. Like,
Yep.
Great minds think alike, I guess. I don't know.
I have to sit right after him. He takes all of mine.
But to follow along his second question, as you pointed out, with budgeting, there's always opportunity costs. You have to give up some things to fund another. So can you tell us a little bit about how you would decide what to fund and what not to fund with a city budget?
That's really the biggest challenge, right? Is because you've got finite resources. I think the crucial thing to really, in terms of budgeting, is to try and understand the priorities of the community and where the future is going, and so that we can allocate the resources needed to support that growth, as well as support the infrastructure that we don't want to lose. We don't want to see disappear from the city. So that's the difficulty that we run into. My personal preference is I'm a big believer in balance, and balancing priorities, but it's a critical thing for me to listen to the constituents, to listen to what's happening, and to keep an eye on the future, because it's one thing to kind of talk to people and they are concerned with the here and now. They are not necessarily looking forward with an eye to the future. And as a member of a governing body, I think that's one of the crucial things, is you have to not just see things the way they are now, but you have to envision where things are going. And that does need to be a priority. And listening to where people are and what their concerns are and plan for the future, I think it's a critical thing.
Thank you, Robert. The term infrastructure challenges has come up quite a bit over the last several years. As I hear that, what specifically does that mean to you? And what are one or two things you'd like to address if you're appointed to this role?
Anytime you see growth, there's going to be challenges. And we have had unprecedented growth in this community over the last 20 years. And the challenges that have come of that is just supporting that growth. Primarily roads, power, and those services that our community not only expects, but demands. In terms of what I hope to see in the future, I believe that the again, kind of keeping that eye on the future, and focusing on the things that where we need to kind of plan for things going forward. The things that I would like to see is definitely planning economically. That's a concern that I have as I've seen Silicon Slopes grow and build over the course of the last 10 years. And then the creation of AI, where AI can now program in 10 times faster than an entire team of software professionals. The concern that I have is as we have grown to be reliant on the technology as a key component of our economics, what happens if there's a downturn? What happens if there are challenges to that? So to a certain degree, I think diversification within our economy is a crucial thing to keep an eye on in the future, to make sure that we aren't inadvertently creating a boom or bust kind of a circumstance for Lehi City.
All right, a considerable amount of time the last 2 years has
Okay.
been spent by the cities to determine decisions regarding the school district.
Yes.
a lane that we never signed up to enter, but was put on us regardless of taking the responsibility for it. So considering your involvement and being a resident of Lehi going through this and also working in canyons, I'm curious about your perspective of what did the cities get right and what did the cities get wrong as following and learning from the Jordan Canyon split?
Okay, what have they done right and what have they done wrong? I think there are a lot of things that have been done right. And really, the biggest thing is that when we went through it originally with canyons, we didn't know what we didn't know. And there was a considerable amount of knowing that there would be challenges and there would be issues associated with developing a new school district. And so you went into it with a little bit of a better scope of knowledge or scope of understanding than we had initially when, 15 years ago when we were going through this process initially. A great deal of credit needs to go to Alpine School District. They read the writing on the wall. And largely for the last 15 years, they have been looking at this as a possibility and kind of planning for it. So that has been a helpful thing to, I believe, to the communities in general, as they've recognized that as it's ballooned to a size that was really untenable for many of our community. I think that's been one of the things that they've kind of looked at. They've already developed some redundancies. They've already started to look at the systems and what would be required of that. Again, back to your question, it wasn't something that the cities themselves had signed on to. So, kudos to you guys for taking that on and just kind of going, okay, it is what it is. We're going to do what we can to manage this and to support the process as much as humanly possible. So in terms of anything that you've done wrong or could have done better, hindsight's 2020. At the top of my head, I can't think of anything, because this is such an unusual set of circumstances and you can't really see the end from the beginning when you start this kind of a process. I don't see any issues with that.
Okay. Savannah Johnston. We will start the question with Paige.
Thank you.
And Keith or Chris, just should you change seats? Well, it's still going to keep you in the same order.
That's
okay?
fine.
So
Hopefully
That's
you'll
going to be
hear me
very
better.
confusing.
Yeah.
you just made it hard on me, but that's okay.
Both said they couldn't hear me from
I
that
know.
other mic. So.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Johnston, thank you for your application. I regret that I did not have time to read the latest publication that you had, but the title is intriguing, The Rising Electoral Role of Polarization and Implications for Policymaking in the United States Senate. I'm sure you're aware that there's recently been a larger role for partisanship in municipal politics in Lehi. So could you please frame that brief in the context of municipal politics?
Gosh, I love this question.
And share with us that, please.
Yes. Partisan politics doesn't belong in municipal politics. Democrats and Republicans alike believe that the trash should be taken out and the water should be clean. The infiltration of partisanship into local politics is poisoning our ability to govern, and governance occurs best when it is as local as possible. So I reject it wholeheartedly. That's my response.
Thank you.
So in your opening statements, you talked about your support of walkable communities, less car dependence, in favor of high density mixed use and more transit. So as a council, we've seen recently with the development Thanksgiving Point that is actually not economically feasible to build for the developer. And so to support that, the city previous councils have voted to give them HTRZ financing, which gives them to 80% of property tax, including property tax that otherwise would have gone to a school district. And it appears that might not even be enough. They're now looking for taxing authority for themselves and municipally backed bonds. So if you are supportive of that kind of growth and development, are you also supportive of government financing that type of growth?
Yeah, it's another great question. I believe in free markets, and where governments need to step in to provide incentives, that is going contrary to market forces. So I am unsure about the kind of funding and taxing power that local government should be giving to developers.
Oh, Chris. I've already messed up first time around.
Thank you for being here. One of the things that caught me with your experience and such is the walkability that you think a city should have, correct? In Lehi City, as you're probably aware, we have some bike lanes that we've put in. We have looked at a revitalization program for historical downtown Lehi and such. Comment's been made by a councilman-elect in a prior meeting that we're a car-centric city, and that's not going to change. How do you approach that when there's that kind of diversity, which is not wrong, but that kind of diversity? And how are there ways that we could become more walkable, or ways that we can improve that in difference to what we've done in the past?
Yeah, I think one thing that's required is a change in mindset. We often think that people want to be in their cars and live and die in their cars, and therefore infrastructure is built up to support that. But historically, that's not the case. Infrastructure is built around cars, and therefore people are forced into their cars. So I think infrastructure actually changes behavior. If you make it more difficult to drive places and easier to walk and bike places, people will do that or take public transportation. I also believe there's a hunger and a thirst to be able to walk and bike places. For example, my husband for the last 2 years has biked 14 miles on the Murdoch Trail to work in Orem from our house in Traverse Mountain every day. Just recently, he opened up a small business here by the rodeo grounds, and there is no safe biking trail from our spot in Traverse down to the rodeo grounds. So I have pleaded with him not to bike because I don't want him to die. We can change that. We can make it so that people like my husband can bike, reduce traffic, improve their cardio health, all good things. Infrastructure can change behavior.
You teach constitutional law and separation of powers.
Yeah.
So what is one area that city council members are most tempted to exceed their lawful authority, and how should a council member resist that pressure?
City council is a legislative body. It is not the executive body in a municipal government. City council is not in charge of administering policies or overseeing. I guess oversight, yes, but not directly controlling, for example, police or other functions like this. And it can be very tempting to say, I don't like the way you're doing your job, Mr. Mayor. But he's the mayor and he's the executive. Our job is policy.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate the brevity of your responses. My wife grew up in Southern California in Diamond Bar, very familiar with kind of what's transpired there. I appreciated your comment about kind of the stigma of high density and whatnot. And we hear that a lot of, it's the NIMBYism. You said that we need to start saying, yes, in my backyard. I live up in Traverse Mountain as well. It's a very diverse community, a mix of townhomes, condos, apartments, and I think it's a thriving community. And I've been up there 20 years. Curious in your mind, how kind of borrowing on Chris's question about the car-centric side of things, how do you help change that perspective?
Well, there is a plan, as I understand it, to put in a TRAX line right by the frontage road there on Traverse, and it'll involve lots of multi-use. There's one way to change walkability. I mean, here's what I can do. If there's a TRAX line there, I can walk from my house to that TRAX line, and I can, from the TRAX line, go into central Lehi, and then I could get to a front runner station and get to UVU. How cool would that be? I would never even get in my car. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like me who would do that. We chose Traverse Mountain because of its accessibility to Salt Lake County and to Utah County. That's why I'm there. And by the way, thank you for the good work you've done for Traverse. So if you build it, they will come, is I guess the mentality on walkability and bikeability.
She started. You started. Sure you do. You sure did.
It's because Chris is here.
It's just completely messed me up.
Right.
You may want to rethink keeping them in the same spot.
Yeah.
Force them to go first.
Actually, we should have just moved the microphones down.
I will change seats after the
Chris,
next
why don't
three
you do that?
applicants. Do
Why don't
what?
you come back down here and we'll just slide the microphones over.
Oh, okay.
Can they
We
move
do
that
it.
far?
Oh, yeah, let's go like this.
It's like
Oh.
taking the water glass to your room.
Okay.
That's easy enough.
That's why you're mayor.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm done.
Yeah, you're done.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. Vern, please, sir, you're up. Okay, we are starting with Michelle on this one.
Okay. So you have an impressive resume. You've had a lot of experience as a municipal planner, traffic manager, planning commission, if I remember right. So based on your experience and in your opinion, what do you think as a city council member that we should do better in our long-range planning? What are we lacking and how can we do better?
I have participated in some of the open houses that we passed the last general plan. MAG is getting ready to do their new regional transportation plan starting in January. So they're on a 4-year cycle required by federal law to do that for metropolitan planning organizations. It would be great if we got on a similar, now we don't need to do a transportation master plan every 4 years. In fact, about 10 years is about the state of Utah average for municipalities, because usually they only implement about 25% of their plan in the first 5 years for the capital projects. But getting on the same cycle, using the same travel demand model that MAG has, that encompasses all of Utah County, there's a lot to be said for that. So a minor update using the new travel demand model with our capital facilities plan, that does a couple things. It also allows us to update our impact fees. So that's one of the things that I would probably recommend, that we try to get on that same 4-year cycle of updating the travel demand model with our capital facilities plan.
Thank you. Do you hear it? You're okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Councilor Coffey.
First of all, I have to say, I know there's a few of you that have degrees both at BYU and University of Utah.
Yes.
My wife is a BYU grad, and my 17-year-old daughter just got accepted to the University of Utah. And so I get to figure out how to manage that relationship there. But go Utes and go Cougs, I guess. You talked about, in your opening statement, you talked about holding developers accountable. In an environment where we have the state legislature and a governor who tend to be on this housing crisis mode and are trying to demand cities to build X number of thousands of homes in a certain period of time. How do you suggest, or how do you think we as a city influence that, or to work around that, where their goals and their objectives, their vision for the state of Utah may not align completely with the city for which you might serve in?
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. What we've seen is the state legislature has really disliked it when the federal government has come down on them and mandated things. And I think this League of Cities and Towns and our communities are also disliking some of the mandates that the state legislature is placing on our local communities. I think land use decisions should be made at the local level. Now, recognizing that there are I won't mention names of certain cities, but they tend to try to exclude a healthy balance of mixed housing types. Lehi has not done that. Lehi has a very good balance of mixed housing types, and we want to continue to see that. I think your new ordinance that allows detached accessory dwelling units is going to go a long way. We have attached dwelling units that you allow as well. I think having moderate income housing and the American dream of being able to afford your first house. By the way, the national average is 40 years old, people buying their first home now. That's tough. You'd like to see that less. And I bet many of you were able to purchase your first home a lot lesser than 40 years old. So single-family detached houses or a mixed use of houses in neighborhoods is probably the way to go. Still trying to achieve what the governor is saying, but the local level of the density or the size of the parcels should remain with our local government.
You spent much of your career advising councils, implementing policy. So to change that and become a decision maker, how is that different when you're the one casting the vote rather than recommending?
It is very different. I've presented to hundreds of planning commissions and dozens of city different councils, right, in my 35-year career. I will tell you, when I was appointed 6 years to the Utah County Planning Commission, the first couple of meetings up there, I was pretty quiet. And it took me a little bit of confidence to get up there and start making motions and reviewing the staff reports where I felt confident enough to do that. I have confidence in doing that. I've been working for local government for 15 years, private sector for 20. I've seen a lot of city council members, and I have huge respect for anybody that puts their name on the ballot. By the way, this is going to work against me, but I'm only going to serve the 2 years I've appointed. I am not going to use my name as a stepping stone on the city council to run for city council in 2 years. I want to get in, I can hit the ground running, and then I'm going to get out. I believe my experience will help with development agreements, so holding developers responsible. One of the things that I'd like to see us do is follow up on those development agreements. We're really good at signing them. We're really good at reviewing them, but we're not very good at looking at the checklist to see if the things have been done. And that's where I think we should do.
Awesome. So in your opening comment, you talked about the fact that you've lived here for 20 years and want to have the continuation of this being a good place to raise your family. So mine is more of a, having been here this long, what are maybe one or two of the more impactful things that you've seen Lehi government do to make it a good place to raise a family?
Well, the land use decisions, it kind of really starts with the budgets and land use decisions, right? Identifying or prioritizing our capital projects and our maintenance. It's okay to defer capital projects, but it's not okay to defer our maintenance. That can catch up to us really quick, and then we're stuck with some using our rainy day funds, right? What I've seen Lehi City do recently is provide transportation choices and options for all residents. I really like seeing, and my personal philosophy is, I want people to be able to choose how they want to get to work. If it's automobile, if it's a motorcycle, if it's walking, if it's biking, whatever the case they choose, transit, it should be safe. That's my big thing. It should be safe. And as a traffic manager for Provo City, I deal with safety on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Actually, you just changed my question. That last sentence. Clearly, you have extensive land use experience, which is a good fit. How comfortable are you with making budget decisions and analyzing the budget? And as a specific, how would you prioritize funding public safety along with the other needs that maybe there are, and what would drive that decision?
Yeah, I appreciate the question and your service, by the way.
Thank you.
Paige, I really do. I am an American Institute of Certified Planner, so I've had that since 1999. It's the PE equivalent for us engineers, or plan engineers, as we call ourselves. Budget prioritization is important. Public safety, no one's really going to argue a lot with public safety. Our police, we want that. We want law and order. We want our emergency people services to be able to respond quickly through fire and through ambulances, and unfortunately some of the crashes that we have, right? We do have to be fair though. My experience is in public works. And so planning, engineering, and public works budget, water, sewer, storm drain, transportation utility fees, impact fees. Those are all important things, but I can't be selfish. That's what I tell my other departments and the citizens when they call and I want this specific crossing, right? I can't be selfish. We got to balance an entire budget. We got to balance. I'm just one department of Public Works. We have to balance out with every other department, and they have needs too. We're never going to have enough money to go around, so we have to prioritize, and that's how we'll have to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
I noticed that Katie Coivisto came in. You missed your introduction, but I honestly think if anybody was going to miss their introduction, it was probably you, because we all know who you are. Would you like to participate in the questions? And we will be starting with Chris up here.
All right, Chris.
Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Recently, as a member of the TSSD board, I felt it was important to switch that over to staff, knowing that you've also served in that capacity. What is your thought or opinion on as far as when city council members are appropriate to serve on a board of that capacity versus maybe an administrative staff member?
Are you specifically referring to TSSD or
Yeah.
just in
Well,
any position?
using
for that?
TSSD as an example that you and I can relate to, but yeah.
I think TSSD was interesting because when I first got on the board, I remember when I first got elected into Lehi City Council and the very first budget meeting that we had, there was a fight for TSSD, and that was so surprising to me. And I realized when I showed up there that it's because it's a paid position. There's no other paid positions on the committee like that, or any other committee positions like that. And when I showed up at TSSD, I had a couple of the members that actually shared that with me. They're like, yeah, it's because it's paid, whereas the other ones aren't. So I think that serving on any of those committees are great. I don't think that there should be a fight whether it's paid or not. I think that if you're going to serve in those positions, I don't think that it should be paid whatsoever, but the people who were fighting over it were the ones that wanted the pay. So, yeah.
Thank you.
What's one decision or pattern from your time on council that you would approach differently today, and why?
One decision or pattern on when I served on the council?
When you served on council.
Okay, so, well, one thing that I think is really interesting is when I took an oath of office to participate on the council, I promised to keep that oath of office and I never was going to quit. And that's one thing that I think is very important and very ethical to do. And so I think that if you're going to be on the council and if you're going to serve and you make that oath of office, you keep it. So I think that that's something that's really important. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, good to see you again. I hope your family's doing well. I think if anyone having served on the council, you would step into the role relatively quickly. Wouldn't be the learning curve, and so I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know how much you've watched, but I'm sure you've stayed involved. What would your opinion of the current budget be, and how would you change it?
The current budget, I think that our finance team is amazing. And I think that if any of the candidates are trying to say that they would want to change or manipulate these things, I think that you have to be careful when you do that, because I think anyone on this council, including myself, we are not qualified to even touch that budget, to be honest. But Lehi City is so lucky to have the finance team that it has to be able to look over those numbers. And we are lucky enough to even grace to be able to have the opportunity to approve those numbers. So there's nothing that I could even add to that our amazing finance team can't already do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so as the only applicant who has been elected and served on the city council, what would you consider your biggest accomplishment on the city council to be?
You know, that is such a great question. So first and foremost, can I just say how excited I am for the new council that is coming in? I mean, there is a special feeling knowing that the majority of Lehi did not want you guys. And I've been chasing that feeling for the past couple of weeks now. And you guys, it is amazing. And the thing is I had some of my friends and neighbors that reached out to me and they said, Katie, you should seriously consider running. And I was like, I don't think I'm actually qualified to do this. And they said, well, you know that Paige has turned in her resignation. and you should consider it. And even then I said, I don't know. I don't think I'm the best fit for it. But I waited until December 16th to see who all the applicants were on the list. And while we have a great pool that is here, I actually am the most qualified person for the position. It's for 3 reasons. Number one, I am the only candidate that has never lost an election. Like, I'm going to lose tonight. I know that because I know that the council's already picked someone, and like, it's kind of a waste of time for everyone here. So, but I am the only one that's actually won. And you guys, I won the very first time I ran. Okay. So whether you agree or not, Lehi City loves me. Okay. Number 2, I am the only candidate that's actually served 4 years on a council, you guys. And shocker, it was this council for 4 years. No one else, none of the candidates here have ever done that, right? We do have a couple that have served on like planning commissions and that. There's one in particular who actually, I don't know if you guys know this, I'm sure you do. She submitted her resignation a few weeks ago, which Scout's honor, I will never, ever, when I take an oath of office, like pull that back. I will never quit. I will fulfill my roles and complete them. And then 3, this is probably the most important. You might be telling yourselves, well, Katie, if you think you're so hoity-toity and mighty, why didn't you put your name on the ballot like any reasonable person would do? Well, a couple of things here. Number 1, I don't know if you guys remember, but we didn't exactly kumbaya on the council very well. And this was not a symbiotic relationship. And so when I chose not to run, I was actually doing you guys a favor, so you owe me one. But in reality, the new council that is coming in, you guys, they love me. And there will be very little contention that'll happen when I serve with them. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Laurel Stevens. Heather will start the questioning.
Heather. All right, you've lived in Lehi 20 years.
Yep.
And those of us who have lived here that long have definitely benefited as homeowners from being able to
Correct.
be here during that time. And it's for us, it's a choice to be here because there's definitely
There's
no one's
options.
keeping us in our homes. So because of that, because you've been here through all that growth and change, what is something that you've seen through Lehi that you feel Lehi City, the council got right? What's been really good that you've seen in that past 20 years?
It's been really good. I really like the trails and stuff up here in Traverse.
Yeah.
Like I said, I worked with the mountain bike team, and that's been awesome for our youth and for our city. I know that there's a lot of other areas that the city's done well. Some of the Thanksgiving Point stuff that I really enjoy the beginnings of it, but as it's grown, I've had some contention with some of the things that have happened more recently. But some of those types of facilities and some types of those benefits, I really appreciate Lehi for.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that you've already run for city council, and I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Mr. Stevens, one of the things you mentioned in your introduction was fundraising for the arts.
Yes.
So I assume you know that it's quite difficult often to
Yes.
fund the arts in a community.
Same with the mountain
On the
bike.
council, you would have direct oversight over the park tax funds, the distribution, how that pie is carved up. What is your opinion of that tax? What would your approach be? And what would the reasoning behind that be?
It's a good question. I appreciate it. We've got to fund our local arts. I honestly not 100% up to date on what those budget numbers look like right now. I know that we give an awful lot of money to Thanksgiving Point, and I haven't looked to see where they're spending those funds. I think that some of that could be redirected to some of our arts programs here in Lehi. I have a daughter that works with the Springville Arts down there. She's in a lot of the plays and stuff that they do down there. And so I feel that that's an important thing for our youth and for our community to be a part of.
Thank you.
Michelle?
So I appreciate the fact that you were willing to run and put your name out there and put the work into it. If you had been elected, what do you think your biggest priority would have been serving on the city council?
Biggest priority, I'm very concerned about how I feel our police department is starting to fall behind in the manpower that it needs and the funding that I believe that it deserves. That would probably be the biggest thing that I would like to see worked on or changed.
I guess I'm going to go off that statement there. What are some ideas, or what would you suggest the city do differently to improve the police force? And what information are you going off of that leads you to believe that it's undermanned and underperforming?
So I'm looking at our basis of how many officers we have per our population, and similar cities around us are considerably higher. I know that we've got one of the best police forces out there. They've done incredible with what they've got, but I think that we can support them better. Some of the things that I think we can do to get them the financing and that without actually pulling it out of general fund budgets and stuff is, I'm aware of people that do things like car shows or different other things that we can do to help raise funds for those to help support that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Paulo. We'll be starting with Paul. Question.
Sweet.
What you got for me?
Thank you as well for running for city council this last time around. It was good to get to know you during that. I look forward to your service on the planning commission, and I have no questions.
Thank you. Paige?
I still can't get any time to think about anything. I understand that you have extensive experience in engineering, which would prove very valuable, of course.
Extensive is relative to
Well, with the
years of
water and the
experience
engineering,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
all of that I think would be really useful in this position. And it's frankly something that I wish I had more of when I started. What would you consider to be the things you want to concentrate on most as you prepare to serve on council? What do you consider to be the blind spots, the deficiencies, the things that you would want to really get up to speed on?
I won't ever pretend that I know every answer to every question. I mean, that's why I do my job, to find answers to questions. That's what we do every day. So with city council, it'd be looking at areas that and information we have coming up, votes we have coming up, projects that we have in the near future, and those areas. And I would study code. I'd study the planning, the general plan, what we have, look at the budget. I would counsel with other people, experts in those areas, and reach out to peers who are experts, who have more experience in that area. Oftentimes in my job, I'm calling people who have 20 plus years of experience and leaning on them for counsel, where I only have 7, 8, 9 years. So it just depends what I'm working on. Thank you. Michelle?
So with your background in water, your knowledge and expertise,
Mhm.
do you feel that there's any role in the availability of water in regards to approving development or maybe our city ordinances and water use?
I think water in Utah as a whole needs to be looked at it as a big picture, not just at an individual city or at a household thing. We're all one unit. It's a really complex problem that is debated at the highest levels, as well as down to a city council office, and even in our own backyard, or how much our kids should be showering every day. But I think gaining unbiased education about water, where it's coming from, what we have. I mean, we're in 3 days away from Christmas, and it's dry and 65 degrees out. It's not looking good right now, but luckily we have good reservoirs at the moment. And I think just becoming more educated and aware of what we're using helps every citizen. Something that I liked that Weber County did, or is it Weber? It might be Weber River Water Conservancy District, is that they used the pressure irrigation meters. All the citizens have access to that information, allowing them to essentially play a game and have the information. They haven't put restrictions on them,
to my understanding yet, but my friends in Weber County that have those water meters essentially play a game between each other of who can use the least amount of water and have the best looking lawn. So it almost, information is power in my mind. Thank you. Chris?
Hey, thank you. In your application, you mentioned that you want to make sure Lehi continues to grow the right way. And you talk about clear zoning, responsible budgets, strong investment in our roads, utilities, and services. In Lehi City right now, the philosophy, the methodology, I guess, when it comes to roads, curb and gutter, is to not build that until development comes in.
Correct.
Is that a responsible approach, or is there a different type of approach that should be looked at, and why?
Unfortunately, that approach is what the state legislatures left us with. Because of the uses, because of the way that impact fees are restricted and how we look out, we're a very reactive state. In order for that to change, we need to change the state legislature and work with our state partners on that way. Other states have more of a proactive responsibility where they'll build the infrastructure, they'll build the highways, but oftentimes in Utah, what we see is that we are reactive and we hear grumblings. We hear how bad 2100 North is, how bad Pioneer is, but those are state roads that the state has to be responsible for. And unfortunately, we get stuck with the blame for that. Thank you.
Can you explain the difference between the planning commission's role, the city council's role, and how the city council should view recommendations from the planning commission?
It's a great question. I don't have a complete answer on that, but I'll find that out and get back to you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm learning about all this at the moment.
You'll learn more.
Yeah, hopefully next week. So. Thank you, guys.
No, don't go away.
Sorry.
I haven't asked you a question, but I'm going to ask you one because of your water background, which I appreciate greatly. I got pulled into a conversation last week about the future of water rates and water acquisition in the state of Utah. I anticipate that those conversations are going to continue just based on the individual who was asking me those questions. If it wasn't for the Central Utah Water Project, we'd be in a world of hurt here in the Wasatch Front. So, you know, that was a project that expressed great vision. It was timely. It's been very helpful. It went through some expansions that were just very beneficial. But they look at our rates in the state of Utah and recognize that we have some of the lowest water rates in the entire country.
We do.
And so they look at that immediately, say, well, we just need to raise rates, and that's going to force conservation, and conservation is the key to our future water crisis that we understand is coming. I'm not sure I subscribe to that theory. I believe it will curb use. That's obvious from the example you gave. The concern I have is we don't seem to have some large water development programs going on right now in the state. And somehow I think we need them. What are your thoughts on that? I know that's an extremely general question.
It's a very generalized question that has a very complex answer with a lot of different nuances to it. The Central Utah Project did do a great job at bringing hundreds of thousands of acre feet over to the Wasatch Front from the Duchesne River, the Strawberry Rivers, and different things like that. As far as raising rates to save water, I think that's a portion of the answer. Again, one of my philosophies is I don't believe there's a silver bullet to every problem. I think there's multiple portions that need to come in. I mean, if there was, we wouldn't need a council. We just have a mayor that makes all the decisions. But because we have a council of 5 people to bring different ideas to the table, we can come to these solutions. And that's kind of the same approach I'd look at with water conservation in the future. Central Utah currently is doing a lot of big projects right now at the mouth of Provo Canyon, as well as Metro Water is doing a lot of big projects at the mouth of their canyon. A lot of what I don't see us building new reservoirs here shortly. I see what us doing is moving water trans-basin more efficiently as far as the big water projects in the future here. And then part of that was water conservation, right?
Yeah.
I think just information is power at the moment. As we see We got to figure out what's going on as the state of Utah with the Colorado River Pact and what's happening there, because then that would allow us to, depending how that shakes out in the upper basin, it would allow us to create more big water projects. But right now, until that finishes through legislation, I think we're on hold at the moment.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Okay, Josh Sorensen was not here. Did he come in? Okay. I was going to give him the same opportunity that I gave to Ms. Coivisto, but he's not. So we're going to go directly to Derek Shumway. And Paige will be reading the questions out.
I was very impressed with your knowledge of legislative procedures at the state and federal level and your willingness to focus on collaboration amongst people with different opinions. How do you see that translating to city council, where so often there are conflicting opinions and it's so essential that people come to a consensus if possible?
Well, thank you kindly, Paige, for your question. It is a tough job to understand what's going on with many different views. I view it as clear communication is very kind to people. If we tell them what we can, as much as possible, as well as possible, that's the kindest way to people respond to that.
Michelle.
Okay. Sorry, in your packet, you stated that you're committed to making the best decisions that will put the city first, even if it may be upsetting to some. So working at the Capitol and in the legislature, you probably know that's kind of a subjective opinion about what the best decisions are. So can you give us some examples of what you see as best decisions, how you will come to that determination?
Yes, thank you kindly, Michelle. I think that there'll be decisions that we would have to make that some residents would probably look at us and say, I just do not like that. I don't like that at all, actually. And there'll always be those fans who will say, oh man, like no matter what they do, no wrong can be done. That is really difficult to balance. I think that when you make decisions and they involve different viewpoints and different people there, if you have understood the situation, you have run the data, you've looked at numbers, you've understood the motions behind it as well. I think there's a point where you do have to go home at night in bed and be content and be at peace with the decision you made. And know that there will be some people who think otherwise, but even when those situations happen, what made that a really good team in the Senate with Senator Romney and Senator Lee, and so, I mean, very different opinions at sometimes where we would have very candid conversations with our staff and so, well, this is not what the constituents of Utah want. But because we were kind and we were clear in our communication, we were able to go home and feel at ease and know that this was the best thing for the state of Utah. I think that the decisions we would make, we will have gone through enough information, enough emotions of a roller coaster, up or down, that we will be able to take ease in knowing that we did the best we could. I'll quote a book that I really like. It's from Bob Berg called The Go-Giver. And he says in there that you should be able to give more value than the payment you take in. And that's how we teach our attorneys and clients stuff. We want to, it's expensive. It's hard to work with attorneys and stuff. We do divorce law and stuff. As a city council, we should be able to provide more value to our citizens than the payment that we take in through our taxes or other revenue. And that policy, I think, would be a very good policy to follow.
Hey, Derek, thank you for being here. Your federal experience is pretty impressive. My question to you is the federal government a partner for a city, and why or why not, in helping with its infrastructure needs or funding needs and things like that? Are they an appropriate partner or not?
Yes, I think they are. They have a time and a place to work with us and be friends. I've seen it working with Burgess Owens' office, John Curtis's office, Blake Moore up in Ogden. There's certainly space, and we should be friends with the federal government. We should be friends with the state legislature, and we should be friends with each other and with the residents too.
I'm very intrigued by that you've worked for political opposing views. And so I'm going to kind of piggyback on what others have talked about with that, but switch it a little bit. So how should a council member disagree publicly with colleagues while still maintaining trust and institutional credibility?
That's a great question. Thank you kindly, Heather. Disagreeing does not mean that you have to sit there and just stew in it. And if you just sit and stew over this, I can't believe that they would do this after all that we've been through, you're just hanging on to this piece of charcoal while trying to wash your hands, and your hands you'll never get them clean. You always have this weighing down, all this gossip and hoopla and everything, and it's just not healthy. Working with people who disagree with you is not easy. And we may not love them to death. We may not like them every day and stuff, but that doesn't mean that it has to ruin your whole day. You can make every day a great day. And even if it's not a great day, there is something great about that day. Disagreeing there means that we can still be a team. You still have a vision. Lehi, we want to pioneer Utah's future. And not everyone will be on the same page, and that's okay. There may be some wins and there may be some losses. We had to share that with the senators. I had to share that with people I met with in the state legislature. Even just my boss, when we have to talk about an employee this morning in a meeting about, they're not performing. Do we keep them? Do we not keep them? What do you do there? Despite what happens there, you can still support the overall future. That we're going to pioneer something great here in Lehi. We're still going to run this company. We're still going to go to work the next day. Things will still be okay. And we're going to try our best there. So I hope that helps answer your question, Heather.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I guess my question, Chris kind of asked the question about, should the federal government be a partner? I'm going to maybe flip it on its head a little bit in that there are times where the federal government or the state legislature will force mandates upon a city. The pressurized irrigation system is one. Unfortunately, that one was not entirely an unfunded mandate. They provided some mechanisms for us to pay for that, but that hasn't been a very popular decision. There were other times where the city has tried to be proactive on accessory dwelling units and whatnot, and the state came in and said, yeah, that's adorable. We appreciate your efforts, but we're going to go ahead and force, basically override what you've done. So with your kind of federal and state interactions that you've had, how do you approach that when you see potential legislation coming down the pipe that's going to override what as a city council we've been trying to accomplish?
Well, I like a lot what our governor Spencer Cox has done to try to address this very issue, Paul. So thank you kindly for your question. His Disagree Better campaign, that we can disagree better and still do it with kindness and compassion, understand, but without sacrificing what you believe in, though. He has fought hard for some of our policies where sometimes he felt like the administration, the presidential administration came down hard on the state and fought back on that there. And it's not an easy job there to be governor or to be even a governing body, to do that, to face your residents every day that you drive to work with and, go to school with and stuff. I think that if we follow those good points from our governor to disagree better, and I'll even cite Melania Trump had this really kind campaign called Be Best. We can be the best we can. And we're going to get through it. It's going to be hard, but we're going to get through it. And we're going to disagree better. I joked with my friends in the Senate. You get to learn a lot from the Democrats and Republicans and liberals and just nonpartisan people, independents as well, and people who aren't involved in politics and don't care about them. That's okay there. We still respect them. We still treat them with kindness. I learned that some of my best friends were Democrat liberals. And, you talk about these, I can't believe they did this, and that's okay too. I want to make sure that when we communicate decisions, and even if we disagree, I also look to how Supreme Court justices, when they dissent and those decisions come out, they don't sit there and eviscerate their their opponents and their co-workers right there. We support each other, because if we don't, you really won't pioneer the future if you're just sitting there with all this infighting. So again, clear communication is kindness, and that, I think, how we can solve those issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derek. Okay, we've been in these seats for a little over 2 hours now. I'd like to know if the council would like to take a break. I'm going to advise it, so if that's okay. Okay, let's take about a 10-minute break. It is now 5:14. Let's come back in about 5:24 and we'll continue with the interviews.
I like these chairs. I feel like I can sit in longer than.
And I don't feel like there's any hesitancy with leaving back. I can move forward.
Hey, Representative. Thanks for coming. I think right now it's the Christmas season. You'll see what happens. Right now, I'm still running behind. I was sorry I didn't make it to the Matthew thing though. That looked great. When we opened under the train tracks, coming to 2350 onto 2100, when that road opened, everybody was so excited. They had like classic cars and Mayor Wilson rode on like a parade. It was straight from Cars the movie. We all did a line. Yeah, I wasn't good at either, but it was fun. Yeah. There you go. Remedies on the way. That's awesome. Well, that's exciting. Yeah. Oh, of course, thank you. I'm sorry, I just took this. Thank you. It's good to see you. It's nice of you. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. I'm sorry.
I don't know why it was so confusing, but all I could see is
I'm sure.
microphones. We just turned the microphone.
Yeah.
Well,
it was in the
I'm
moment.
trying to keep two lists here.
Yep.
Who starts next? Paul, so goes to page. Page starting next question.
Yeah, no, Michelle is.
Michelle is,
next.
okay.
Yeah, Jeff. Let's get started.
Sorry.
If I can get everybody to take their seats, please. Where's our attorney? Okay. Well, we need Matt. Where's Matt?
For timing.
All right.
No, I can't. I don't know where the timer is. All right. Huh? Okay. All right. Appreciate you being patient with us. Like I said, it has the potential of being a long night here, but we're making good progress through this agenda. And the next applicant is Jess Green. So Jess, if you'd like to come up, and we will be starting the questioning with Michelle.
Fire away.
Okay, I get to go first.
Perfect.
I believe you live in the downtown area.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to get your opinion on the downtown revitalization plan. It includes things like infill, increasing the density, mixed use. And since you live in there, what are your thoughts on that? And how could the city have done better to get input from the people who live there and work there?
I mean, the only thing that I got, I mean, there's just a couple parts here. The only thing that I recall receiving from the city was just a pamphlet that was left on my door about the potential zone changes and the revitalization process. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I don't know what the city's allocation is. I don't know what the budget is. I don't know what's entitled to a lot of that. It's obviously with my background. I mean, I'm not probably as adept as some of these other people. So I'm just the layman that lives here and just sees some challenges. So just bear with me. The revitalization process, I think there's some good things and some bad things. I've got some concerns from a real estate aspect, being a real estate professional. I don't know anybody. I've never sold a townhome or a condo or anything like that, that somebody says that this is where I want to buy, live, and die. The ultimate American dream is still a single family home. I'm highly opposed to the high density stuff. The high density leads to a lot of different things. Also understand there's some tax, advantages to high density, but it's currently, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and it takes 20 minutes to get down Main Street. High density also brings a lot of infrastructure problems, brings a lot of public safety problems. There's just a lot of things that go to high density that a lot of people from the outside looking in, yes, people need homes. I just don't know that it's the high density and mixed use is the right way to do it. ADUs have been a good way for some of the cities to utilize existing homes, basements, easing some of those, legislative processes so that, family members or, somebody can rent out a room that have traditionally been kind of frowned upon by cities. So, I mean, I don't know if that answered your question. Again, I mean, I do. We've lived for 14 years. We live in the Smith Mansion just up here that my wife and I, we spent a lot of time trying to revitalize and restore and maintain the history of the home and the character of the home. That's something it's important to me. I enjoy my main street. I enjoy any main street that across the country that I've ever been on. That's where I think you find the real heart of the town is on Main Street. It's mom and pops, it's small businesses. I'm not saying that the big tech companies don't bring certain benefits to it, but there's a lot of downsides to those types of things as well. And so I think when, we lose sight of, our Main Street mom and pop businesses, the way that local families feel about it, I think that it's a real problem. So, I mean, that would be my take on it. So.
Hey, in your application, you mentioned that you want to provide maximum transparency.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to me what you mean by that, that term maximum, and what are some ways that, in your mind, the city can improve its communication with thinking about transparency?
Sure. I appreciate the question. I'm actually glad that you asked me that question, because I've been sitting and kind of pondering and stewing on that since you'd asked that to somebody else. I believe you guys are all elected officials, correct? Yeah. So one, I find this particular setting a little bit interesting, that we can fill a vacancy without having a separate election for that seat, and it can just be a vote on somebody that's not, somebody gets to come fill the seat that isn't elected by its constituents. So I find that kind of funny. As far as maximum transparency, I think it's interesting because you've mentioned an NDA. I guess I would question why you have an NDA. If you work for the city, if you've been elected by the city, why should you not be able to go out and express your opinions, your thoughts, your opinions, your beliefs to the people that elected you? Now, take that with a grain of salt, because obviously I've never been on your side of the seat, so I'm sure there's some things that that I don't. So, it's not a personal attack on anything, but I guess I would question why there would be a non-disclosure to protect a position where I'm actually supposed to be as transparent as possible to the people that would put me in this particular seat. Does that make sense?
Yep. Does. Thank you.
Yep.
In your opening statement, you talked about public safety as one of your top concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
In my first budget season, I brought up per capita for police station funding and was quickly rebuked by somebody much smarter and more experienced than I was.
Sure.
And was told that was based on a national average, decades-old study that doesn't apply to Lehi City being one of the safest ranking cities of the nation. So with that in mind, what metrics and data-driven support would you use to determine if our public safety has enough funding and enough staffing?
We have a police department right across the street. What do they need? This isn't rocket science. I know as a resident of Lehi City, the first concern that I have as a dad and a husband is I want public safety. I want to know if my house catches on fire, that the fire department's going to show up. If there's a crime committed, that the police department's going to come. If there's an accident involved, their call times are the best. I want the best in the country. I don't care what other cities are doing. I want my city where I live to be the very best. I could care less what the national average is, but I do have some people that work, for the police department. And I actually just had an opportunity to speak with Chief Paul. They need whatever they need, they should get. Now, I understand that there's a budget and it has to balance, and I'm not privy to that. So it's easy for me to stand here and say that. But public safety comes first and foremost. We can't have a thriving, growing city without public safety. That's just plain and simple. And then second to that would be infrastructure for me. But I can go right to the horse's mouth and say, be told that, we need more people. From a real estate standpoint, we're part of, it's called RPAC. We get numbers that are coming out, by 2050, the state of Utah's expected to be, add another 2 million, 3 million people. Like, we're going to double in size. Well, where the hell are these people going to go? I mean, a lot of them are going to come here. And one thing that I think that we forget is that if they can't fit here, which they clearly can't because everything's designed to high density. Well, they're going out west. Well, the problem with that is they have to come through our city to get there. And do what we may, like UDOT is, takes their sweet time getting whatever it is they need to get done. Therefore, Pioneer Crossing's a mess, State Street's a mess, Main Street's a mess. We all live here, we all know it, we can feel it. Yeah, so anyways, that would be the long-winded question, the answer to your question.
Thank you.
Yes, so first of all, appreciate your effort. Living downtown, working on the Smith Mansion, I think it's important that we do as best we can to, preserve the history that we have. As far as, I'll just address, you mentioned kind of the weird process here from an appointment perspective. That's the state code. Like, that's what we're following. This was not something that we as elected officials here decided, oh yeah, this will be fun way to do it. This was dictated by the state. So just putting that out there.
Sure.
The question then is, living downtown, what do you see as the biggest challenges for downtown residents or downtown in general? We did just pass the downtown revitalization plan, which can obviously be adjusted and amended. You living here and seeing it day to day, what are the biggest challenges that you see as a resident?
Traffic's a problem. Infrastructure, traffic's a problem. Again, for me, I like downtown. I like being able to walk down and get a donut. I like being able to walk past the police station. In fact, my girls will come down and the little ramps, they'll come down, we'll walk down and they'll ride their bikes and do all that kind of stuff. That's their thing. So I think it's like, from my perspective, when it comes down to like what we would consider revitalization, mine wouldn't be revitalization, it'd be preservation. I think we should be doing everything we can to preserve what the people have, given to us. For me, listen, I'm a small town guy. Like, I've been here for 43 years. Like, I remember what this place was like when it was just the Lehigh Roller Mills and the high school and a 4-way stop. We didn't take the freeway. We took State Street. And so, it would be about preserving Main Street, figuring out how to help those businesses, get more walking traffic to them. I just think that that's important. I understand that maybe there might be some money that comes from Silicon Slopes, but everybody, if there was some attractions, if there was something here for, downtown, that would prove vital and important to the city. And I don't think that's mixed use. I don't think that's high density housing. I don't think that's Main Street storefronts with condos on top of them, personally.
Okay, thank you.
I've also chosen to live downtown for some of the same reasons. I love it. Have you tried the new bread place? It's great.
I haven't. Not to interrupt you, I haven't, because I make my own sourdough, which I'm stressing because you guys are keeping me from my stretch and folds. I'm having to tell my wife how to do it.
Well, we've made several trips there because it is within walking distance. It's delicious. I appreciate what you've done with the mansion. We've also looked into doing some restoration stuff. It's incredibly difficult to restore. You make an excellent point about the communities out to the west of us and their impact on us in terms of traffic and infrastructure. There is a balance to be struck between constitutional property rights, zoning, and how we can deal with it here. What would your suggestion be with regard to the burgeoning population out to the west? What should we do for that?
I guess if I was a scholar, I'd have a great answer for you, but to be honest, Paige, like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know that anybody does, because it seems like we're all kind of battling the same mess. And unfortunately, I think that the can just keeps getting kicked down the road. I think I mentioned before, like, if I'm being completely honest, I really don't want to be here. I don't want to do this, but I feel like I'm almost compelled to do it. I found out about this position in Denver a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, like, I don't want to do it, but maybe I really should, for multiple reasons. I don't know how to be anything but honest, so that goes back to the transparency thing. Like, if I'm elected, like, you work for the people of Lehigh, whatever the people of Lehigh want, like, that's what we should be doing. And that may not be what I want. And then I have to make a decision whether or not I want to come or go. As a real estate agent, one of my frustrations is I'm constantly looking at, man, maybe I should pick up and leave. Maybe I should go find a new small town. but I don't know if that's my duty. I think my duty is maybe to stay here and fight for this one. I've been here for almost 15 years. This is what my kids know is my home. And so everybody wants a home. Everybody wants their property rights. Like, everybody needs a piece of the American dream. And I just think that we're missing the mark drastically. And again, I've not been on your side, but I can tell you what the residents, what my neighbors say. And this is not a dig at any one person or anybody, but what's being done is not being done the right way. It certainly doesn't feel that way. You can walk outside your door and you can see the way that the city is growing. It seems to be a problem. And there's a lot of things, especially coming from like the power generation. And listen, I'm a little over my skis because I don't know what I don't know. But I mean, if they really do introduce a nuclear power plant out there, like that brings a whole nother set of issues that we should probably be starting to figure out.
Thank you.
Jess, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
You brought up high density housing several times. How you're concerned about that, and I understand that argument. I've been involved with a lot of economists that are very, very concerned about the future, of our children and our grandchildren. If they don't find housing, if they can't get into housing in their mid-20s or early 30s, they will never have the opportunity to get ahead financially to be able to even retire. And, those numbers are very concerning. So if we don't create housing that people can afford so that they can get in a situation where they have financial stability in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, how do we deal with that? Because we can't keep building $1 million homes and expect 30 or even 40-year-olds to be able to purchase those as their first residence.
Sure. Man, that's a big question, Mayor. And I think if I had the answer to that, I wouldn't be here. I would be on some boat in the Bahamas somewhere because I'd be making a bunch of money. The high density housing issue is not just the high density thing is just an easy thing to say. It's high density, and high density is a problem, right? It's not high density. It's the cost of everything else that leads to high density. And so what we keep doing is we keep doing a lot of quantitative easing, and we keep doing all of these things to help combat inflation. People can't afford to buy a house because wages are stagnant, like especially in the state of Utah. They've stayed pretty stable. There's a reason why first-time home buyers, I think somebody said it was 40, it's actually 38. When you allow a giant influx of people from out of coastal cities to come to your town and your city and to realize what they think the market value is, it makes everything unaffordable. Like, I'm 44 and I'm not sure how the hell I'm going to retire, if I'm honest, let alone if my kids are going to buy. I can tell you right now, my kids can't afford to buy a home in the city that I live in. I mean, $500,000 for a 1,900 square foot house just down the street. Are you kidding me? This is madness. I don't think there's anything you can do from this spot that's going to fix that. I think I personally believe that that's a national problem that we have that is being driven to where we are affected by it. And the high density housing is it's a Band-Aid easy fix to say, let's put somebody in it. I guess my issue that I would bring to you is, as a real estate agent, there's two outcomes to this. Somebody gets into high density, a condo, townhouse, shared purposes, because one, they can't afford it. It's not where that they want to live. It's just all that they can afford. Or two, we now have large corporations and organizations that are building these things and then dictating and managing rent control. That then also affects what mortgages do and what the value of housing does.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Running out of time.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Emily Lockhart up next. And Chris, you'll start the question.
Hello, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I want to go off a comment you made in your opening statement about 2100 North and Mountain View Corridor.
Yeah.
And kind of dovetail a question I asked earlier of another applicant, where
in the state, we tend to be more reactive in our infrastructure and we build, for example, as I said earlier, road, curb, gutter, after development comes, or when development comes, right? Not prior. If you drive through, I mean, as we've all driven through the city, right? We see many areas where you'll have full road and then it goes down to 2-lane road or whatever, right? And that's because the development hasn't come in for that stretch. Is there something as a city council member that you would do differently or that you would argue differently for the state to help remedy that issue?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. So as you know, I have been serving on the Planning Commission, and during that time, I've developed relationships with our state legislature and elected officials, and I have been working with them on an infrastructure first bill. So the way that would work is, well, let me start by saying we have 100,000 housing units that could be built across the Wasatch Front, and permits could be pulled tomorrow if there weren't massive infrastructure costs in the way. So what this bill would do is it would effectively identify the projects that would have the largest impact, and then the state could come in and fund the infrastructure first, so that those housing units could go in. It would increase the supply across the Wasatch Front, which would help with with meeting the demand and lowering the cost. I'm actively working with House representatives today, and we'll see if we're successful in the 2026 session. But like I said, my commitment to Lehi is strong, and no matter the outcome of today, I'm going to continue working on that bill.
I think you can agree that we have some incredible candidates in the room for this appointment.
Absolutely.
Who are well qualified. They can hit the ground running and be a major asset to city council. So as someone who's ran an election in this last election cycle, how did that prepare you to be appointed to a 2-year seat?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question as well. We were making a joke during the break a little bit that I keep showing back up, and I'm not sure if that says something positive or negative about me. But I really believe in service, and as you campaign, you go door to door, you meet with residents, and you hear the concerns. You develop a true love for your neighbor. And through that love and understanding that I have for their concerns and pain points, I want to meet the hour and I want to deliver results for them. I happen to have this skill set, both from my education, my profession, and my civic involvement on the Planning Commission, that gives me the skill sets to help solve those problems for my neighbors right away. And so it's just that love for those that I live with and care for, met with the unique skill set that I have that make me ready. Thank you.
Yeah, so Emily, appreciate your service on the Planning Commission. It was interesting to see you share your being out for the Mountain View corridor opening.
Yeah.
That was a great event as far as just expanding the regional transportation issues that we have. Having run a campaign and gotten to know you during that time, I have no questions.
Thank you.
I'll take his and mine.
Okay.
Because I have a twofold one, but they're entirely different.
Okay.
The first one is because you have those ties with the legislature. I'm sure it's not news to you that sometimes municipalities feel like there are policies that are being pushed upon us that perhaps don't work for our community, aren't the best fit. How do you intend to navigate those times when you need to get along with the legislators, but also you perhaps object to the things that they're doing? And then my second question is, I'm so sorry.
I'm going to try to remember. If I forget, call me out.
I will. The second question is easy. You're well versed on the different council assignments. What liaison assignments do you think you could be of the most use in?
Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to the state legislature, and I have background working in passing legislation, and what I've found, especially on the big controversial stuff, is you have to get to the why. You have to explain to them very clearly the practical impact that this is going to have on your residents and essentially their constituents as well. Once they see the dominoes fall, once they can see the long-term impact, they're ready to come to the table. But you can't just walk up there, knock on the door, and demand a meeting, right? You have to have these relationships that you've built over time. And I know that you guys have them, and I look forward to just adding to that and continuing those relationships. Second question, if I've got more time. I have a lot of business experience. I'd love to work with the chamber, but I'd also love an opportunity to work with the Historical Society. But I am willing to serve in whatever capacity is asked of me.
Okay. During your 4 years on the Planning Commission, the issue of property rights for developers has come up quite often. And based on a question you raised during the Planning Commission, what rights do residents have?
Are you referring to a specific thing I said in a meeting, or is that question you've asked me separate?
In general, we hear
Yeah.
about the developer having property rights, but what rights do residents have?
Yeah, so property rights are a funny thing. You love them when you have them and you hate them when you don't. So within your zone and within that table of uses applicable to that zone, those are your rights that you have. You also have health, welfare, and the safety. So when the council makes a final decision, their job is to work on ensuring that the surrounding properties don't have any negative impacts that would impact their health, safety, and well-being. And so like a good example of that is if you put something down next to a use that's incompatible, like the smell of burning tires or things like that, the city council can work with the other developer to come up with mitigations that will help the residents surrounding them. And just to be clear, my record on planning is I often have advocated for mitigations and included them in my motion to protect the surrounding residents. And I can provide examples if I have time. Do I have time?
You have another minute.
Okay, great. So there was an applicant who came before the Planning Commission about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, who wanted to have a concrete recycling use, and we had to fix the zoning, and then we also had to approve the use that he wanted. But there was a residential property next to him, and so we talked at length about how to protect that resident from the dust and all of the sound. And then we ended up not giving him manufacturing ability and just keeping it to recycling to protect the resident. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, Jared Peterson. Heather will begin the questioning.
Jared, I love your extensive financial background and the experience you bring with that. So I was curious, developers often come to us and present really optimistic projections.
Yes.
So what indicators would you look for on council to distinguish what's realistic financial assumptions from overly aggressive ones?
Well, there's no question that developers and builders are always very aggressive, very optimistic in what their projections are and whatnot. What you have to look at is what's realistic in the market, what's really happening in the market. Are units, are homes really selling for that price? Are your costs, is that really what they are? We live in a time now where that kind of data is extremely available. I mean, we've never had more data than we do today in our decision making. So you have to review that data and understand and just have a feel for and ask the questions of, are your costs really in line? Because here's some examples that would show that you're not in line.
Okay, Jared, thanks for being here. Appreciate you running and got to know you a lot during that. Just want to thank you for your service on the Planning Commission. I'm pretty sure you're the only candidate here whose public service has taken you inside the rodeo ring. So thank you for that as well. And I have no questions.
Thank you, Paul.
Another two-parter. I love that you have served in Lehi when it is thankless, uncompensated, and quiet. You've taken the time to give to your community, and I appreciate that throughout your years of being on the Roundup rodeo side and the other things that you've done. One of the things I have noticed amongst city committees and things is those who serve on them are tending to be older. And I'm one of them. How are we going to keep that Lehi tradition and history with so many new people moving in? How can we bring in the younger generation to understand their heritage and want to preserve it for the future?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I would say that's something that I actually, during the campaign and in several conversations with people, one of the great things about Lehi and the community is the spirit of volunteerism and the spirit of community. People want to be involved. I've said it before, if you don't feel like you're involved, you don't feel connected to the community of Lehi, well, then you need to get involved. Put a chair out at the parade and come be with us as we celebrate, as we do these things. So how do we get the younger generation involved? We need to create those opportunities. It's something that we've talked about on the Lehi Roundup Rodeo committees. How do we get these younger generations involved, and bringing them in, giving them assignments, and letting them see those inner workings? It's imperative. We see it also. Where I am now, where I kind of am concerned the most, is in the historical society, right? The history of Lehi is great and it's amazing. I love to see the murals that hung in Lehi State Bank here in the building. And so how do we get people involved? And there's just education and providing those opportunities and inviting people to participate in events, and all of those things is how we get and garner that excitement for whether it be history, whether it be the celebration, whether it be the parades, the heritage days, whatever it is. We have to make those invitations and just really garner that support and that willingness, and foster that spirit of volunteerism that we have in our community.
Okay, so I did listen to an interview you gave during the campaign, and
Yeah.
I just wanted a follow-up question. You mentioned in that interview that you recognize that we did lose businesses to Saratoga Springs, and you mentioned that we need to develop our tax base here in Lehi. So as if you get appointed to city council, how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, that's really, really tricky, right? And it's super easy to stand here today and look through today's lens at decisions of the past and see where things could have been done differently, where maybe we could have done this or could have done that, right? But we're at a point, you can't go back. We got to go forward. So how do we do that? Well, we have to be identifying, we have to be reviewing. The great thing about the general plan is it's a living document. We have to be reviewing that. And is there opportunity for business growth? Are there opportunities for small business? Main Street is an amazing place. I work on Main Street. I commute up and down Main Street multiple times a day. We have great small businesses. Are we supporting those small businesses? Are we creating a way for people to come downtown, park, and be a part of those businesses? And it's the same, if you look along Pioneer Crossing, are there ways to get people there? I mean, there's a lot of challenges in Pioneer Crossing area, and I get that. But are we looking far enough into the future that we're providing opportunities in the future? A lot of these things can't happen maybe today, but in the future. One of the things I really believe, and you've heard me throughout the campaign, if you've listened to me, is that we have to be taking a much further view than the next few years. We need to be looking at what are we going to look like when the city is completely built out? And are we doing things today to get there, to provide those opportunities for business, for retail, for small business, and all those things in all parts of the city and around? And are we supporting the small business that we have? And are we doing things to encourage those small businesses, not only to come, but for people to take advantage of those small businesses?
With your background, and you look at personal situations or business situations when someone comes and applies for a loan, or and you're looking at certain criteria, what kind of criteria do you look at that would be similar to looking at a city's budget that would help you determine if that city has a healthy budget or is economically viable? And do you feel that Lehi City is economically viable with,
understanding that changes will be made by different councils and such going
Sure.
forward, or not, and why?
Yeah, no, great question. One of the C's of in banking, we use, some people use 4, some use 5 C's of credit. And one of those being cash flow. And how well does a business manage their cash flow? When you're reviewing a loan, do they have the cash flow historically and projected cash flow to maintain and to cover that debt? Well, the city is very similar, right? What's our cash flow? What's the cash flow that we have coming in? How is that being allocated? Are needs being met? I mean, we've heard tonight that there's probably way more needs than what we have dollars for, right? We could get really carried away if we had an unlimited budget, but we don't. So it comes down to prioritizing those things. And we have to prioritize in a way that we take care of the things that need to be taken care of today, but recognize the things that are going to be taken care of in the near future and plan for that and prepare for that so that they don't become larger problems. We don't want a problem in some department to percolate year over year over year because we haven't been willing to allocate some budget funds to that because we're too worried about taking care of something else, and it becomes unmanageable and it becomes a real problem. So, when we look at cash flow and the where our funds come from, where our funds are going, the city has used bonds, which I think is fine. It's a great way to finance capital projects. And, do we have the cash flow to support those kinds of things? And yes, obviously we do. We have an amazing finance team here in Lehi City. Dean and his group are really, truly some of the very best. And I would also say, the state, Natalie Gottschner is the lead economist in the state, and she has spoken very, very highly of the economic situation here in Lehi. So,
Thank you. Real quick, so a couple of things. Yeah, Natalie Gottner, she really pays attention to Lehi. I'd say more so than probably any other city in the state as far as the economic advantage. And you did say something that is really important. And I don't, we've been working on this for a long time, and that is our planning horizon needs to be built out. It can't be 20 to 30 years in the future, and that's what some of our master planning organizations are doing, but that is not serving us very well right now.
Yeah, no, and I think that you can make an argument that that's been one of the challenges throughout history is we've had a hard time having vision far enough out into the future to prepare for it. I think even with Eagle Mountain, Saratoga, when they came in, there wasn't enough planning for the future, and we ended up with some traffic challenges that maybe we didn't expect to come as quickly as they did. But today we have the data that we've talked about. We have great data about where we're going to be at build out, where the county is going to be. And we really need to be working as a city with our neighboring cities and all of those other state entities on those things.
Thank you, Jared.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is Derek Phillips. And leading off the question will be Paul.
Hey, Dirk.
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So my question, two of the council members up here you would be serving with if you were to be appointed, which is Heather and Michelle.
Yeah.
With the experience that you've had here in Lehi, I'd love to get maybe your take on something that you've seen each of them do well or advocate for that you appreciated as a Lehi resident.
So I'm going to be honest. I've avoided politics in Lehi my entire life.
Okay.
It was when I seen this meeting that I thought, why not? So as far as anything anybody's done specifically, no, I don't have an answer for that.
Thank you. And appreciate the frank honesty.
Yeah.
Building on that, obviously we are a quickly growing city and there's a lot to take in and a lot to train for.
Yes,
what steps would you take between now and the first of the year to get up to speed and hit the ground running?
What I can tell you is I'm a very quick study. When I get into something, it's all in. With my business, same thing. Like I run a global sales business. The learning curve would be fast paced and need to be done quickly. And that's the only way to answer it is I would have to dive right in to get to learning what takes place and everything with this.
Michelle. Okay. I won't hold it against you. You can give me a compliment. That's okay.
It's okay if you do.
You're honest. That's great. That's what we need in politicians, right? So you mentioned that you're fiscally conservative. The city currently has a policy where every 2 years we look at increasing property taxes to adjust with inflation. Despite the fact that we often have budget surplus or that sales tax revenues increase. So do you, knowing what you know, probably a little bit, do you support that policy and why or why not?
I don't like taxes to begin with. So I think there's a time and a place that it has to increase. I think that needs to be looked at the time that it comes up for the increase. Yeah, that one's tough. My goal is to represent the people and what the people want. So that's where I'd have to lean back to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In your opening, you talked about public safety and that you had some concerns with that. So I know I've addressed this with a few other candidates who have mentioned it as well. In my 12 years and going through 12 years or 12 individual budget cycles and such, there are times where I've asked personally for additional officers than what was requested or what we saw the need for was at the time, right? If you're speaking with a department head, so I'll take it even outside of police, right? But police is something that seems to be a common theme. If you're talking to those who run that department, so we'll use police, right? And they say, no, they're really good. So one gentleman mentioned that he didn't care about national rate statistics. He didn't count, he just cared about what our city was doing, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with that to a point. It doesn't in a way matter. If we can do something better, more efficient, great. If we need a little more to do something, as well as we need it, then that's great too, right?
Yeah.
But what if the person who's in charge of that department is saying that no, they have what they need, but yet you still feel like it's a concern? How do you balance that?
I mean, you'd have to have the conversation with the person in charge of that organization. So, because if you look at the same organization in another city, which we are now bigger than, and say we have less employees for that organization, it's with the police force. So us compared to Orem City right now, we're now officially bigger than Orem City, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah. And so with the police force in mind, how many officers does Orem City have on staff? Over 100?
It's close to 100.
Yeah, I think it's like 102. How many officers do we have on staff? And I love our police department. They do amazing. Where do we fall in that? We're right about 75. So I feel like we're understaffed for the population that we currently have.
But if your department head is telling you we're not, how do you balance that?
That's a good point.
Are you still going to tell them that they're wrong?
No, not necessarily. But I would have to have that conversation with the department head and hear that for myself.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really want to piggyback on that.
Go ahead.
But yeah, so I got two parts too. So my metric is call log. So if Orem takes considerably more calls than Lehi does, their officers are taking more calls. In fact, their officers take more calls than our officers do. Do we still add more officers in? And does that mean that then our officers lose overtime? We have an excess of officers. Maybe there's a cutback because we don't have the same needs as Orem, even though we have roughly the same the same population because they're taking considerably more calls than we do per capita.
I feel eventually we're going to catch up to the same amount of calls that Orem City currently takes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a great city. Nobody can argue with that. But I think over time, we're going to catch up and be in that same boat where had we planned ahead and brought those on over the course of time, rather than 10 years from now when we're like, oh, wow, we're getting way more calls than Orem City does, but we're 25 officers less, since we're using the police department as the, so I don't know.
Not easy.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And I don't claim that any of your jobs are easy. But
Thank you.
yeah.
Just a couple things here and
Yes.
piggyback off that because I've heard the concern about officers. I know the police would love to always have more police. So I'm looking at our chief back there right now and he's grinning because that's true. But what's also true, and we can't deny facts, is 2 years in a row we've been rated as having the safest community in the entire United States. And
I'd
that
like
is
to keep it that
measured-
way.
That is measured from any. They haven't looked at every small town, but they've looked at every city within 50 miles of a major city of 100,000 population, and we are bigger than Orem right now. So because
Yes,
Orem has a declining population and ours continues to grow. But it's hard to ignore statistics like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're safe. There's other things going on in this community that is protecting us. And I can't tell you what those are, but it's probably important to understand that that statistic is out there and it's one that we didn't, it's not one of those things where you apply for this and you get considered. We didn't even know this was coming, right?
Yes.
And it's happened 2 years in a row, which is a real big thing. But anyway, I do have a quick question because
Yeah, go ahead.
when I was going through all the applications last night, I was reading them. I noticed you and Jess both work at the same company.
Yes, sir.
So just out of curiosity, did you guys know each other was applying for this job?
Jess has known me for 42 years. He's 43 and I'm 42. He's my cousin.
Oh. Did you talk that, hey, I'm applying and you applied too?
So we were actually at our corporate party out in Denver when I seen the thing on Facebook and I was like, hey, check this out. And then we both apparently had the same idea.
I thought. I just never seen that before. I just thought it was interesting. I'm
Yeah,
like,
okay. Jess is my cousin.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Good. That's really it. Thank you very
Okay.
much for your
All right.
time.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Montanay, come on up and it will be Paige.
Hey, Paige.
Hi. We've known each other for a long time. And you've heard me say it more than once tonight, how much I value volunteerism in the community, because it really says a lot when you're willing to give your time in a position that is not in the limelight, that requires a lot of hard work. You've served on the Environmental Sustainability Committee for quite some time. And you and I have had numerous conversations about how we can make Lehi more sustainable, make Utah more sustainable without stomping on property rights. Can you expound a little bit, maybe your thoughts specifically with something like water conservation, how you would go about doing that?
Yeah, it's complicated in that respect. I think, first of all, you don't want to surprise people, right? And, we all have what we have, but we're still growing. So I think it's really important for us to know where we want to go and make sure to start to change policy for what we're going to develop. I think we're missing the opportunity there. There's a longer conversation about how we deal with existing stuff and how long people have to change if we want to force that change, or is that change going to come just because we start charging for water? There's some hard conversations, but the through line there is there's no reason for us to not get ahead and make sure new development is built in a way that accomplishes our goals for the future.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have I'm going to ask you the same question I asked before. As you said that you are in favor of high density and job density and the walkable community kind of thing.
Correct.
So you understand the problem with our Thanksgiving Point development. That's where we have front runner and transit, and to put in the density and the commercial there to sustain it, it's not financially feasible for the developer. So they've come and asked for incentives that takes property dollars away from the residents to provide city services to help them build a parking structure, ironically, for a walkable community, right? And also their high-rise apartments. So if you support that kind of density, and it does require government financing, are you in favor of that? And how would you help finance it?
That's complicated.
Sorry,
I don't
yeah.
love the idea, to be honest, right? And we've had these conversations about high density. I don't love the idea that we have to pay for things that other people are going to make money off of, right? So we socialize the costs, but they get to privatize the gains. And I don't think that's fair. So I don't love that idea, but there is a time and a place where to redevelop certain things, that getting government involved is important. A lot of the municipal planning authorities or organizations that have been set up in places like Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis have done things where they do buy land around their transit. And I think, especially with Thanksgiving Point, it's the best transit station we have, or transit connection we have to find ways to build density there, because that's the only real transit we have now, right? And I don't love us giving away the taxes. We have to find ways to do it without it, in my opinion.
Through serving on the Environmental Sustainability Committee, what have you learned about encouraging a diversity of thought, but also working to come to a decision?
I mean, sustainability is an interesting thing for Lehi, right? Lehi is staunchly conservative. I find it funny that, conservative is part of conservatism, right? Like, it's literally part of. We should be aligned on preserving our environment. So what I have learned, though, is that is how to shift the mindset a little bit, right? To placate, not necessarily, not in a bad way, but to take the message and be able to shift it towards people that maybe don't value the same things the same way that I do, right? And instead, say for like power and energy, right? They don't want to hear about this woke stuff about, green energy, but when we can couch that in terms of energy independence and energy sovereignty, that we have control of price and how it's made, it can be a very productive conversation. So I think you need those diverse opinions, and you need to learn to work with them so that you can get your point across and that we can meet our shared goals for our community.
Thank you.
You ran a couple of campaigns, and I'm sure the hot topic during your campaigns was growth. Was during mine. I'm sure it will be for the next 20 years. That residents want to hear how you're going to slow growth, and there's campaign promises that are made, broken, and it's a lot different from making a promise as a candidate to then being in this role. And so I don't want to talk specifically about what you could do to slow growth or to meet those things that the residents have, but more of what would your approach be? How would you talk to residents, knowing that, you look back the last election and it was pretty split, and no one had like an overwhelming win. So there was a lot of, points that were being set out there that basically our residents are kind of divided on. And so how could you be a spokesperson to residents and be effective, perhaps in an educational way, or just so people understand, what we really do have to deal with here that's quite different than what we're able to sell as running a campaign.
Yeah, I mean, campaigning doesn't allow for nuance very much, right? Like, it just, platitudes work and short sentences work. Unfortunately, this issue is really complex. And I mean, I've had the conversation with Michelle. I understand the anti-growth as far as high density movement. I understand the other side that says, hey, property rights, everybody should have them. And it's a really hard balance. I think when you get to the bottom of it, all the problems that we're having, and I've told Michelle this, is because of growth, right? And I mean, we can have 6 kids and 14 grandkids. It's great. But I don't think if you look internally and say, okay, I'm doubling my population every 7 years because of this kind of growth, what am I supposed to do? Right? Like we have to really come to grips with the reality that we've caused. And it comes to our economic system, it comes to our religious systems to some extent as well, and understand the effect that we've had on our society. And and to me now we're kind of in a position where we just have to do our best to mitigate it until society catches up with, oh crap, maybe this wasn't a good idea to grow like this, right? And it's happened in Europe, right? They've had that and they've gone through wars because of it to some extent as well. So, I mean, I think to me, that's why high density, I know everybody hates it, but there are good places for it, right? The WFRC and MAC have already identified centers within Lehi that we can build out, but we're going to need transit. And that's why I think Thanksgiving Point is really important to us. Unfortunately, geographically, it's not the best either, right? But at least let's do the best we can with an asset that we have, working then with UDOT, et cetera, over time, UDOT and UTA, to bring more transit connections so that we can possibly pull some of this population out of the deserts. And when the MPOs are saying there's a hard, fast limit to our urban development, we're feeling the pains of not establishing those.
Okay, we got to move on to our next.
Yep. Go ahead, Mayor.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I want to point out that Montanay is the 3rd candidate from my little neck of the woods in Traverse Mountain. So we're overrepresenting on applicants. I wish our voter turnout was as good as our city council application turnout. But appreciate the involved little portion of Lehi that I'm in that we are concerned about these issues. Also appreciate your service on the Environmental Sustainability Committee. In your opening statements, you talked about kind of advocating for policy around sustainability, and certainly moving from a committee to a legislative body would allow you to actually initiate some of those things. Besides sustainability issues, what might be some of the other issues from a legislative perspective, policy perspective, that you would want to advocate for if you were to be appointed to this position?
Yeah, I think, again, Michelle and I have great conversations. A conversation that we were talking about was mixed use, right? And I think mixed use is something that has to happen, especially if we're going to build these small centered communities that allow the residents to meet most of their daily needs within a walking distance, right? That would be an ideal situation. But as she brought out, one of the concerns that we have, or one of the problems that we tend to have in those mixed use developments, is the commercial doesn't get really utilized, right? And so one of the interesting policies that we could put in place is making sure to change how first floor development goes, right? And saying first floors have to be a certain height, floor to ceiling, to accommodate commercial eventually. So it could be used for residential initially because, well, we all know, you have to have a certain critical mass to make that commercial work, but build in a way that looks to the future of what that community is going to need. And so changing our policies as far as our mixed use code would be could need some cleaning up in that respect. And I think changing that height, making sure that, that first floor can be used, first of all, for residential, but then later could be converted to commercial would be a really interesting concept to look at.
Awesome. Thanks, Montanay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, Tyson Hodges is our last interviewee, and we start with Michelle on him with the questioning.
Okay, I'm actually going to change the question I had planned a little bit, but in your resume, you talked about how you have been, you've overseen operational budgets and capital projects. And it's been discussed here about our police department and whether or not there's a shortage. So one of the things I found that sitting in on budget discussions that I heard from our department heads that there is a staff shortage in our patrol officers. And I was given a study that shows that as well. So if you're elected to, or appointed, to the city council, how involved will you be in the discussion, budget discussions as much as a counselor is given. Do you feel that's important? And what would you do to give more oversight to the budget?
Yeah, so anytime you can participate in budget meetings, I think is a plus because you get to know what the needs are. So with my background and experience, my director has all the hospitals from Utah County to St. George. All of us have meetings daily. When we go through our budget process, it's just not me and my boss trying to determine what my facility needs. It's every facility from mine to St. George. That's 9 hospitals. And we're allocated maybe $5 million for capital improvements. And 9 of us have to fight for $5 million. Each one of us wants 7. So we play a game called catchball. You go back and forth about what's necessary. We all get to find out what needs each other have. And do I feel my needs are worse or needed more than my counterpart? And so sitting in some of those discussions helps you get to know what their needs are and where things can kind of maybe relax a little bit till the following year, or no, they're really broken, they need to get fixed. And so it's just having collaboration and team building to be able to find out what the actual needs would be.
Thanks, Tyson, for being here. So if in your opening, you talked about forecasting and planning and how important that is and how you've have worked with that in your role, which I appreciate. When you think about the questions that have been asked about budgeting, you have your needs that you need today, right? And like you said, everyone wants 7 when there's only 5 million available. We find that often too as well, right? And so you have to find that right balance, right? But if you're also looking towards the future and forecasting, as you've indicated an importance to, how would you approach that budget process when you're looking at what the needs are today, what you're being told are the needs versus a forecast or a vision that you're seeing for the future?
Yeah, that's getting to know what your needs are. So for me, it's easy with equipment and life expectancies, things like that of what I look at. And so when you look at what the city's needs are, whether it's growth, whether it's other things like that, is you look to see what the needs are. And we usually have a 5-year plan. So I know what I'm going to be asking for funds for in the next 5 years. And I keep that rolling 5-year average. And I do that by knowing what my building's doing, knowing what everything's functioning inside of it. Yeah, you get to get the occasional surprises when something breaks and you didn't expect it to break. It didn't last as long as you thought it would last. But you take your best guess at planning for the next 5 years. And that way, not only that is you got a baseline budget for what you're looking for. So whether if you need to increase taxes or if you need to, if you can decrease taxes or, sales tax revenue, things like that, it's a game that you can play is just knowing what your 5 years down the road looks like.
Thank you.
Probably the biggest keys to being an effective council member is relationships and maintain relationships. And one of the difficult things with campaigning is there's a lot of people who want something from you, even beyond developers. They have expectations of how they want to see the city developed or grown or policies that you're going to put in place. And sometimes when you get into these seats, you realize that you're constrained. You can't do it legally, or the code doesn't allow it, or there's things where you have to say no to somebody who basically supported putting you in that chair. How would you handle that situation and be able to still maintain that really important relationship with the person who you just had to say no to?
Well, then, if it's illegal to do, then you just can't do it. It's not within your legal bounds. But to me, making promises for somebody's support, to me, isn't a good way to be campaigning or to do it. They can support you for the way that you see and your vision is for the city, if you've got one. Trying to push agendas from other people for profit making, for if it's a developer, something like that, I don't agree with that at all. To me, this is a collective body with different experiences and background who's trying to do the best for Lehi, not best for individuals or corporations.
So Tyson, appreciate you applying here again, as well as your campaign, and especially for yourself and the almost all of the applicants tonight that were willing to put the $35 forward to participate in this process in a meaningful way and not just to have an open mic. Having met you during the campaign process, I have no other questions, but thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Bob.
So we've talked a lot about your management experience, but having read your resume, I know that you also know what it's like to be lower on the totem pole.
Yes.
How have you balanced that during your career, and how do you see your management style in terms of working with people who serve underneath you?
Yeah. So for me, I've always had a drive. Not necessarily management was the goal, but I saw something that I can improve from previous leadership or just something within the system that I'm working in. And so me having the foresight to go and have the initiative to push for more, push more learning, push for more explanations, and then just having that drive is what's gotten other people to see what I'm capable of. And that's what's gotten me to the management level that I'm at. I ended up going back to school when I was 36, got my degree in healthcare management. And at 38, raising a family of 4 with a wife working full time, did a 4-year degree with 0 credits to start and finished it 2.5 years. So drive, education, and just the push to get to learn more so I can do more things to fix more problems.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now we get to the point I think that everybody stuck around for. I don't think anybody's left until we reach the vote. So this is an interesting process. It's a little bit different than most. We are looking for a majority vote from the council. This is a roll call vote. I'll be starting at one end of the council and going the opposite direction from when I took questions. If we reach 3 names that are the same, the vote is over. That's who it is. Once we determine who will serve or take this seat for the next 2 years, we will actually perform the oath of office tonight. And we have a resolution here where I'll actually write their name in, and then we'll have to pass that resolution. So that being said, council, is there anybody here not prepared to vote tonight? We're going to do it tonight anyway, so you better be prepared. Okay. Paige, I'm going to ask you to start, if you will. And before the vote takes place, let me just say this. I've been pretty impressed tonight with some of the responses we've heard here. They've been a good mix. I've got to know some people I've never known before, some that I do. I've got to know them a little bit better through this process. I appreciate that quite a bit. But I've also seen some people in this process tonight that I just hope run for election the next cycle if they're not chosen tonight. And we're going to have a number that's not chosen tonight. But there are some very, very good applicants that we listened to tonight. So I appreciate that a lot because I think that's important for the future of our city. So don't get discouraged. It takes a little bit of time to be involved. Some people, like myself, ran 2 campaigns and lost both before I won my first, right? And you don't want to get involved again after you lose. There's no shame in not being selected tonight. I just want you to know that. That you need to carry a lot of pride that you actually showed up tonight and threw your hat in the ring. So I commend you for that. That being said, Paige.
Thank you, Mayor. It's no secret that this is my seat that we are seeking to fill this evening for a lot of personal reasons, but I'm grateful to all of you who have thrown your hat in the ring because it is truly amazing. And it will send me out the door with warmth in my heart for how many people want to serve the community and how many people are prepared to do so and have volunteered in that capacity. Just to briefly, I know it's been lengthy, but to briefly understand some of the things that I was looking for tonight, it's no secret that I value people who serve their community when it is thankless and anonymous. For each of you, whether you have or whether you haven't, I would urge you to ask the new council, ask the new mayor, ask the city administration and the people in the community how you might serve. There are countless committees, so many things that happen in this city to make it so great. And I could see from the feeling and the attitudes in this room that you are needed um, outside this room to help keep this community going and help keep that spirit strong. Another thing that I had been looking for throughout this evening is um, someone who has had the experience of running for public office, because those who have, and this room is full of them, know that it is truly a gauntlet. And it is difficult and stressful for you and for your family. So I would echo what the mayor says. If you feel like you have something to add and something to give, I would urge you to run for office, because it will really help you refine your knowledge and be a better servant to the community in the future. The last thing I was looking for, especially, was someone who would always, always, always revert back to the importance of the Constitution of our nation and of our state. Because when it comes down to it and those tough decisions come before you, that should always be your first question and where your first allegiance is. So those are the qualities that I was primarily looking for, but there are so many others who have come up here that have gifts that really would serve this community well. That said, I believe, and my vote this evening, should anyone else agree with me, would be that Emily Lockhart replace me in this chair.
Thanks, Paige. Yeah, I'll echo what the mayor said. I've actually been blown away by the quality of the applicants that we had tonight. Many of who I had never even, I wouldn't be able to recognize you on the street. I've never met you, but your applications that you submitted, the thoughtfulness in which you answered the questions, and your clearly deep concern for the community in which you live and are raising your family means a great deal to me as a resident, even though I won't be on the city council moving forward. Running a campaign is a challenging thing, and it's getting more and more expensive and more toxic as time goes on. I will congratulate both Mayor Benz, James Harrison, and Rachel Freeman for having survived that gauntlet. I look forward to their service to our community and wish them all the best. I think Lehi is a great city, and that's why I think we're fortunate to have as many chose to run for city council and as many as came here this evening. And I hope that we can continue to make Lehi the great place that it is. As far as the vote before us tonight, I would also throw my support behind Emily Lockhart to replace Paige.
We saw that there was 19 candidates, 2 that had dropped out, that were applying for this position 3 days before Christmas. I don't think, I'll just speak for myself and say it was not something I was excited to come and do. This has been worth every minute. The many of you I wish I could continue the conversation with, because I feel like there's a lot that I could learn from you. But I'm thankful for your desire to be here and to be a part of this, and that there are things that you want to do. I encourage you to stay involved. Reach out. If you want to know our why, reach out to us and we will tell you why. I know a lot of us try and post on social media too, but like we're here for that reason, to be able to, and it's different than a job application when you're here really to be able to represent and engage the residents. So I'm looking for that person who has had that experience of where residents feel that they can reach out and be able to fill that seat. It's a pretty big seat to fill with Paige and everything that you have done for the city and your involvement. And I have learned so much from you. That is because of your encouragement that I decided to run. And I think this is something that is a big thing to fill for someone. And with that, my decision is also for Emily Lockhart.
Okay. Emily, congratulations. We do not have to take any more votes according to our procedure here.
I'm looking down the road and I think Councilwoman Stallings would like to have her comments as well.
Well,
And I'd be interested in
we're-
hearing both from
We'll-
her and.
We'll get to
Councilman
some
Conde.
closing comments here, but according to our procedure here, once we get 3 votes and we're done voting, if they're unanimous. So I would like to say before the swearing in that, Paige, I want to say thank you for your time. You've represented well. There's times I wish I would have been as good a diplomat as you are. Chris and Michelle, I'll let you guys go ahead and make any comments you'd like to make.
Oh, you want? No. I just want to thank, as everyone else, thank everyone for attending tonight, for all of you that have applied. I want to say it, being honest, to mixed emotions, being in the seat and not being in this role come January 1st. But I was talking to some residents this morning, and one of the things that I think we can all agree on is there's much more good about Lehi than there is bad. I think that in election cycles, we tend to focus on all the wrong things, the bad things, the misperceptions. And it's unfortunate that elections are run that way, but hopefully that can change in the future. Because there really is. There's a lot of good in Lehi. And if there wasn't, I don't know why we're all living here. But I love Lehi. I love all of her residents, all of you. I love the families. I love the community. I love all that Lehi is striving to be. And I understand we all have different perceptions, and that's okay. And that's why we run elections. That's why we feel that desire, that push in ourselves to get involved in different ways. And I not only encourage each of you, but I encourage myself to keep doing that, not to allow myself to just stop and say, hey, I put 14 years in, I'm done. That's good enough. If I want to see Lehi move in a positive way, then I can't just sit back and hope that that's the way it goes. So I too, as it's been said, I wish the new administration, the new council in January, the best of all that I can. I hope that they have as much success as they hope to have, and that if I can be a part of that, I'd be happy to help. And with that, I'll just say thank you.
Michelle.
I want to thank all of you for coming out and spending the long hours here. There are many of you who are very, very qualified to fill the seat. People who've given decades of their lives to serve, who haven't quit when it's gotten harder. I don't like that we were put in this position. I thought after the election results, we didn't have to worry about it. I am a strong believer in representative government, and the person best qualified to serve in this position is the person chosen by the people. So I hope that each of you come back in 2 years and run. You'll run against me. That'll be great. If I find somebody better than me, I will be happy to vote for you. I promise you. It's a tough job. I just not sure what to say at this point, but thank you for honestly coming out here, expecting a fair hearing and fair judgment. I appreciate that. And Katie, you're the only one who was elected by the people. To me, you fit that qualification. My vote would have been for you. And there's something to be said about those who go through that, the fire of campaigning, and come through it and win and serve the people. And I'm just going to say one thing that I appreciate about you on the council. First of all, that you stuck through being that lone voice. I know what that's like. It's tough. You stuck it through to the end. You weren't unelected. You chose to step down. But more importantly, I think your voice mattered. You were one against others, but it mattered a great deal when it came to our general plan and limiting our build out numbers to what our infrastructure can actually handle. So even though you were that one voice, you made a huge difference, and I appreciate that. Again, thank you to all of you. And I do hope you'll come back, and I hope you will step up and serve in other ways, because we can use your brains and your minds and your creative ideas on things. And I mean that with all my heart. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Council. Council, we have resolution number 2025-103 in front of us. It's a resolution appointing Emily Lockhart as Lehi City Council member pursuant to section 28-1-510 of the Utah Code to serve until January 2028. I'm looking at Emily. Can I get a head nod? Yes, I'm in agreement with this. Okay, there we go. Thank you, because I didn't want to have a second vote up here. So it is a hard thing to do, and it was going to be a very hard decision for anybody up here. Council, I'll take a motion for this resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve resolution appointing Emily Lockhart as the Lehi City Council member pursuant to section 28-1-510 of the Utah Code to serve until January 2028.
Okay. I have a motion by Chris to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
And a second by Paul. Any questions on that motion? Okay, this is by resolution, so we take a roll call vote. I'll start with Michelle.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Paige?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, I don't believe we have any more business for tonight. Everybody is welcome to stick around if you'd like for the swearing in. We will take care of that. But for right now, I'm going to call this meeting to a close, and we'll perform the swearing in immediately. Thank you.